Today in episode 53 of the podcast, we will be taking a look back at 2024. What were our favorite films, favorite TV shows of last year, and looking ahead to 2025. There's a lot of big stuff, a lot of big finales and reboots and more that are coming in 25 that we're really looking forward to. But I'm Brad, he's Josh, and this is We'll Bring the Popcorn.
Welcome, everyone, to Season 2 of the podcast. We're in year number 2 now. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. As always, give us a like and subscription on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you're getting our episodes when they drop every single Monday, each and every week. Also, if you're listening to us in the audio realm, give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And also go to willbringthepopcorn.com where you can find all of our archived episodes, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store where you can get all the latest We'll Bring the Popcorn merchandise. We can't thank you enough again for your support.
Am I the only one who has no idea how it's already 2025? Like,
no
December
clue.
was like a week long, if that.
Yeah, it felt like 5 minutes. It was insane. Christmas came. We had that anticipation for Christmas, and then Christmas came and went in like 5 minutes. It was ridiculous.
I put our Christmas decorations up before Thanksgiving because of the weather and everything, and I took them down right after because of the weather on like the 26th or 27th, but it felt like I had them up for like 3 days and didn't get to enjoy them or doing it. It was just... It's crazy. I don't know if it's just with getting older, how much time flies by, but last year was nearly a blur. Like, we had a ton of entertainment-wise, a ton of stuff that came out, but like just whole year just disappeared in a flash.
And I think it helps with like doing the podcast where we have something to look forward to every week, so it kind of helps speed things along. We're like, all right, we can get to, when we do our movie reviews and when we get to see the movies that we're going to see or watch the shows that we need to watch for the episode that we record, and it just feels like it's with that constant churn. And I have a feeling 2025 is going to go the exact same way because you can't see it from your point of view watching the show, but we have 3 whole sheets filled with either movies we liked in 2024 and then just 2 whole sheets full of stuff that's coming out in 2025 that we have to look forward to as well. Like, it's going to be a big movie and TV year for us, and I'm excited to kind of dive into everything that's coming up. We're also looking back at how great 2024 was because it was a little bit underrated as far as movies go. Like, it felt like there were more, I would say, kind of meh kind of movies that came out in 2024.
A lot of misses.
Like a lot of misses that we were a little disappointed in, but there were some really good, like, fantastic films that came out in 2024 as well. And I'm kind of excited to look back and look ahead in this episode because we loved so much in 2024, but I have a feeling 2025, there's going to be so much more to look forward to that it's going to have the potential to have some all-time classics in this year, and I'm looking forward to having that discussion.
Yeah, let's go ahead and kick it off with, we're going to look back at 2024. So as you mentioned, there's a lot of TV shows and films that came out in the year. We're going to touch on what our favorites were. We're not going to touch much. If we might have a few mentions of the ones that were kind of disappointments, but we're not going to focus on the disappointments at all. Sure. We're going to look at the best, and I'm going to start it off with one that was probably both of our favorites. It was right up there at the top, one that we probably had the most fun with in theaters this year, and if you know us at all, pretty much know what it is. It's Deadpool and Wolverine. Sure. We get Hugh Jackman has returned as Logan. He's playing Wolverine again. We finally got him in the Wolverine suit, and it was absolutely glorious.
Yeah, it was one that we had been hyping since the start of the podcast, that it was our most anticipated film of the year. And a lot of times you have movies like that you go in with such high expectations for, and you're either slightly let down or it doesn't quite live up to everything you had hoped it would be. This was everything I wanted in a movie and then some. Like, hats off to Disney, who gets a lot, and for good reason, bad reps when it comes to a lot of things, but at the same time, they let Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman make this movie that, it blew away every expectation we had for it. Because, the running conversation about Marvel right now is that Marvel's in a lag. Like, ever since Endgame, it hasn't quite been up to snuff that everything that was so magical about the MCU before that. And I really think this movie really helped just kind of get it out of that rut that it was in and kind of just start to catapult the MCU back into, positive lexicon for people that it's such a good movie and it's so funny. The action is brutal. Like it was just one that I had such high expectations for, and it miraculously still exceeded everything I had hoped for in this movie, and it's just so good. The rewatchability is so high. I've watched the movie at least 6 times this year, which is not something I do for a ton of movies, but I'll constantly find myself going back to it. It is such a good comic book.
Oh, yeah, being such a hard R that Disney kind of let them do whatever they wanted to do, including a ton of jokes at Disney's expense, which was great. But you also had all the cameos. You got the variants of Wolverine, which is great to see all of that. And yeah, they just kind of let him run free with it. And it was really fantastic. You get a little bit of drama. The only thing I kind of missed from it is I was kind of expecting to see more of the X-Men. Like I was expecting to see James Marsden and Famke Janssen and a few others maybe show up, because a lot of the movie revolved around his, because they had passed away in his world, but I thought maybe we were going to see them in a different world or something. But we got the Chris Evans cameo that we were expecting and, absolutely loved. But yeah, that was just a love letter to fans of Deadpool, of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, of just like, hey, Marvel's done all this, Fox has done all this, let's just make a movie that's just a love letter to everything, and then we see where it goes from there. And it's just great humor, that just laughing so much. But again, the highlight of the whole thing was Hugh Jackman in the yellow and blue Wolverine suit. Just looked incredible. Like once you ripped the sleeves off and you got the mask on, and you again finally got the mask. If you remember, there was a bonus scene in the Wolverine that he was supposed to get the suit in it, but it never got put on. It stayed in the box, and took, what was that, 15 years later before he finally put on the suit. But it was well worth the wait, because he looked absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I think having Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is this fourth wall breaking character, where it can give you that subtle, like, hey, we know you've been wanting this forever, and it just gives that meta, like, playing with the audience a little bit, like,
until he's 90.
Yeah, he's gonna be doing this until he's 90. That's the fun running joke. Or that, or like, when they actually face off in after they get what's the phrase that the TVA does, where they zap you into where they send them there and they have the fight, and it's just like, this is about to get good, this is what you guys have wanted to see. It, and it's just kind of playing with the audience in a very fun way, that it's
in
just
front
like,
of the 20th studio logo.
Just kind of a big middle finger to Fox at that point, because fans have wanted this from Wolverine for so long. They're like, we're finally going to give you what you've been wanting for so long, and just paid off in the most epic way possible. I'm so glad we got the movie that we did, and for that reason, it is very clearly the best movie for us in 2024. Like, we set such high expectations for it, like we said, and in my opinion, it exceeded it and then some. It was the talk of the world for months after it came out. We got just the iconic, Channing Tatum as Gambit quotes that people were quoting for months after, like, "Woo, about to make a name for myself here," like I heard that from so many different people for months afterwards, and it's just the mark of a long-lasting and well-made movie that is just memorable and quotable, and it's something that you can continue to go back to. It just gives it such high marks for me.
It still surprised me they brought Wesley Snipes back as Blade,
yes.
and made fun of how long it's taken to get that Blade project. There's only been one Blade, and there'll only ever be one Blade.
We don't know how close that could be to reality, with as long as they're taking to make that freaking Blade movie that we've been waiting for so long. And we get so many awesome cameos, so many awesome appearances. The action's great, the story's great. Leaves potential for more Deadpool and Wolverine hijinks, which, if you've been following along with all the Marvel news, the hope is that they show back up in Secret Wars, hopefully. So it's kind of reinvigorated a lot of people's love and passion for Marvel, and a lot of people are excited for the future, because we got a movie like this, and it was just like, okay, this is what we've wanted from Marvel in the MCU, is to make movies like this. And they're finally feeling like they're getting back to it. Now, we do have some movies coming up in 2025 that we hope continue that, and just build off that goodwill that Deadpool and Wolverine got back from Marvel in a big, big way.
But yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine was absolutely the most fun I had in theaters in 2024. I think I saw it 3 times in theaters, watched it 3 or 4 more times at home. Like, it was just pure joy and fun, and it's definitely one of our top best of 2024.
Absolutely. And moving to another movie that was, in my opinion, right up there with Deadpool and Wolverine for me personally, and that was Wicked. We couldn't be remiss with talking about Wicked. Wicked was on par for Deadpool and Wolverine for me. It's another one I had super high expectations for. Wicked is my all-time favorite musical, and I think this delivered on it in such a big way. There is not a theater kid that I know that doesn't gush and rave about how good this movie is. The incredible performances by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, both up for Golden Globes. The Golden Globes are tonight. Like those are good. They're going to get Oscar nominations, I'm sure, coming out of it as well. Like this is such a big film that's still doing incredibly well at the box office, given that it's been out for over a month and a half now, and it's still one of the top 2 or 3 movies every single week. And it's just given to the power of how good this movie is, and it's so good. It pays such incredible love to the musical itself, while kind of doing their own thing and making just this incredible movie that I recently just watched it again now that it's come out on digital. Like I bought it on digital to watch it again before it comes out on Peacock, or I think it's coming out on Peacock at some point in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, by end of winter, early spring. That I was like, yeah, I can't wait to see this movie again. I have to buy it. And I don't do that for a ton of digital movies. I absolutely put my money down to watch this again.
Yeah, we already grabbed it on digital as well. We've already watched it since it just came out on digital on New Year's Eve. But yeah, it was fantastic. Like, there was so much love and care, even though there's so many people on the internet who are color grading experts now that want to talk about the colors and everything else on it. Like, it looked fine. It looked great. But you can't, with these songs, like, they are not easy songs, especially Elphabuzz and Glinda's songs, the main songs for them. They're not easy songs. They really move around the register and just everything else. Like you have to be able to sing to do these songs, and they just nailed those songs completely. Like they were fantastic. And I mean, Ariana's already been in a few things, but I think this is really going to skyrocket her acting career even more after that, because she did such a great job of bringing her to life. Because, I mean, the Wicked story, she really is the villain. So, she's playing the nicest person in the world, but she's kind of the villain of the movie and of this, because she's, part of the problem of what happens with Elphaba and everything else. And I love that the movie kind of touched on that and showed you that, yeah, she is the popular one, and she is, kind of made sure that we brought home those aspects that, even though the Wicked Witch and her sister and everything else are, in The Wizard of Oz are the villains to us, well, let's look at maybe that's not how we thought it was. And I think they did a great job of really showing that from the book, from the play. I know the book is quite different. I ended up getting the book for my wife for Christmas so she can read it, and we can see just kind of how different the book is from the play, and how, compare the movie to the book and the play and everything else. But I think they did a fantastic job. And, this isn't the last time we're going to be talking about Wicked on the show, because part 2 is out in 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the biggest movies of the year as well. Going to do absolute gangbusters. It's going to be interesting to see how they finish telling the story, because you do get really only the first half of the musical in this film, which is crazy, because I know we had some trepidation about it being like a 2.5, almost 3 hour film, when the actual musical itself is 3 hours in totality. And it doesn't feel like you're watching a 2.5 to 3 hour film when you're watching it. It goes by so quickly. The music is captivating and the visuals are amazing. I don't care what the colored people's, like people that are harping on the color schemes of the movie, which is absolutely ridiculous, because it's a visually stunning film. And it's so good and so well done. The music is incredible. You worry a little bit when you hear that they're doing live singing in the film, and you're like, well, I don't know. But when you have 2 absolutely world-class vocalists playing your 2 lead characters like this, and the love and the care that they showed each character and the music, you get a really magical moment in a magical film that's going to win a lot of awards. It's going to, really catapult Cynthia Erivo to a level that she really should be at, because if you've seen anything she's in, I love the movie Harriet, that really kind of kicked her off in like a more global superstar kind of way. like it's going to take her to another level now because she is an absolute world-class vocalist. I saw a lot of people were like, well, who's Cynthia Erivo? A lot of people don't know she's one Oscar away from being an EGOT. Like she has an Emmy, she has a Grammy, and she has a Tony already. Like the woman is phenomenal. And it's this movie is really going to just really catapult her superstardom to the next level. And I'm excited to see where her career kind of goes from here because she is just amazing and wonderful and gives so much care to this. And like you said, Ariana more than holds her own. People have very strong opinions about Ariana Grande for a good reason, one way or another, whether you are involved, like pay any attention to her personal life or anything like that. Like that all aside, phenomenal performance as Galinda. This was a dream role for her, and you see how much love and care that she gave to this role, and just what we got was something really special and something that, in my opinion, is the greatest musical adaptation of a movie to ever be made. And I'll stand on business on that. And for that reason, it ranks right up there as my top film of 2024 for sure.
It still surprises me just kind of how small in stature both of them are as well. Because you can tell that they're shorter and smaller, but to have such power come out of two women who are, I think, both under 5'4". Like, I'm not trying to say anything bad about height and stuff. I'm about 6'1". My wife is around 5'3". And so I'm like there's such incredible power on those vocals that come out of both of them in such a small stature. Like, it's just incredible to see them work. They had such a great bond. Ariana and Cynthia had such a great bond in the movie. Like, they seem like they've almost become sisters after, recording the films and stuff. But you could see that chemistry and everything that they had together in the movie as well. And yeah, Wicked was really fantastic and definitely one of the best of 2024.
Yeah, you can't have a list talking about the best movies of that and not have that on there. You don't have to be a theater kid to really enjoy this. I know so many people that don't even like musicals or don't like anything of that are still raving about this movie, and it's one of the films I've had the most fun talking to people about for a good reason. They were like, man, I just had no expectations of this, and I was really blown away by it. I love hearing that from people and just opening up, and I'm hoping this is like, as somebody who loves theater and loves like musical stuff, like I hope this opens the door for more people to go and check out more live performing arts and things like that, because this I hopefully feel like does kind of kick off that next wave of love for those types of things, because there's so many good things to dive into in the world of musical theater that I hope more things kind of come to light and more projects like this get made from some of the bigger musicals. Like we've had Chicago, which was an incredible one. Like there's so many good ones. They've tried to do West Side Story a few times.
Cats.
Yeah, we don't talk about Cats. Cats is kind of the outlier, but there's so many good ones that they could do and bring to light. I'd love to see a live action Book of Mormon movie because that musical is fantastic. It's made by the creators of South Park, so take what you want from that. But it is a fantastic musical as well, and that's kind of the one I'd like to see next to kind of get that big screen treatment that I think would be a lot of fun for people.
And I'm hoping this really gets Wicked back out there touring and stuff again, because, I've seen it with my wife, and my mom has gone, and our oldest has gone, but our youngest hasn't seen it. She really loved the Wicked movie, so that's something hopefully I can experience and share with her, that we can take her to see the Wicked musical on stage and everything, and let her see that whole performance, because we've done a few of the kid stage plays of musicals and stuff, and all that, but we haven't taken her to a full off-Broadway production so she could see how that is, because we're also looking for the Phantom of the Opera is going back out on tour, so to be able to go back and see that being performed, because that's one of my wife's favorites and one of my favorites as well, of those plays and musicals to see live and everything. So hopefully that does get a lot more people wanting to go to the theater and see musicals and see plays and get those halls, especially around Cincinnati. We have some great venues for that we can get the Aronoff Center and Taft and everything else filled again with people seeing musicals and everything else. And I think Wicked is going to be a big part of kind of bringing people not only back to the theaters, but also bringing them back to the theater.
Absolutely. And for that reason, Wicked just absolutely winds up on our list for that reason. And there's so many other good films that we can kind of highlight here, and we could go into so much depth and go back in our archives and check out every single movie that we've released, that we've talked about here in 2024. There's some ones that we can add to it. I'd say the best animated movie of the year is absolutely Inside Out 2, in my opinion. Right up there, I would put Wild Robot as well. Like if you want to kind of just group animated movies together, those are, in my opinion, the two best. Wild Robot being such like a kind of an unsung like hero of like animated film. A lot of people were like, I don't know like what's up with this, but visually stunning, incredible story, just a beautiful visual movie. Great story with that. Inside Out 2, a great follow up to an already popular film that wound up being one of the top 2 grossing films of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Both fantastic family movies and a really good highlight for animation in 2024.
I even throw out Transformers 1 into with talking about animation here. I thought it was a ton of fun. Like it's giving a different origin story, and got Chris Hemsworth was being Optimus Prime, and not everyone was sure exactly how his voice, but he did a fantastic job. I think it was one of the better animated films of the year that I really loved. But yeah, The Wild Robot and Inside Out 2 are up there as the 2 best that were released. Yeah, The Wild Robot, visually stunning, like just incredible to look at, but so well voiced and acted, and it had heart and it had humor, had some very dark humor to it and stuff too, but it had a lot of emotion stuff behind it. That is one of my favorites of 2024. And yeah, Inside Out 2, especially because I have a preteen now, and that's where Riley is in the movie. So there's a lot that I can take from the personal life, go into that. So it's nice to see that evolution of emotions and anxiety and everything else being talked about Inside Out 2. But yeah, it was incredibly done, and it was a solid year for animation, I think, overall. I think we had some really good animated films that came out that, Inside Out 2 is one of the, it's the highest grossing animated film of the year, but it's one of the highest grossing films of 2024 as well. So not only was it a great movie, it had very big box office success, which I'm very happy for with Pixar, because we know they were the kings of box office for a while, but COVID kind of hurt them a lot, because a lot of the stuff came to streaming and people weren't watching, and then they put out a few that just didn't do as well in theaters as they expected. And so it's kind of nice to see Pixar coming kind of back out on top with Inside Out 2.
Sure, yeah, and they got a big one to look forward to in 2025 as well, that they're going to put a lot of money into and push very heavily. If you want to talk like animation, the kind of the hybrid animation live action, would be remiss to not talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 3 that just recently came out as well. Another fantastic movie that we gave a lot of high marks and reviews to. It's kind of a hybrid, not exactly animation, but it is and it isn't, kind of a fun mix of just another continuation of, you start talking about getting into the third film of a franchise is where historically a lot of quality takes a significant dip, and we didn't get that with Sonic 3. And if you can go back in our archives and check out how we felt about it, like in one of our most recent episodes, but I feel like the quality of that is just as high as it's ever been now, which is great considering that it's a third one. And, there's going to be a fourth that we're well aware of, but I would put that up there as far as a high quality film that we got this year too. It just happened to come out at the very end, and it's just still kind of getting that buzz where I think, at least for a couple of straight weeks now, it's been number one at the box office, and people are loving and going and seeing. And
it beat Mufasa.
Yeah, it beat Mufasa, which is a little surprising too, but it's done so well. Not shocking considering the quality of the movie that it wound up being, but still another big hit, and another one that just was really well done that we both got a lot of enjoyment out of.
I love Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I think it was just pure fun. It was just so much enjoyment. There's a lot of throwbacks for those who are fans of the video game world and universe with Sonic that is based off of. There was a lot of Easter eggs with that. Of course, we got Jim Carrey returning, and he got to play dual roles, playing against himself, which who better to play against Jim Carrey than Jim Carrey? Right. But yeah, it was just pure fun. It was just visually it was stunning. It was probably the best that the animation anything has looked in any of the Sonic films. It was very smooth, looked really good. We got a little more drama with Shadow and bringing Keanu Reeves in and everything. And of course there were some more jokes about Keanu Reeves. But yeah, it's one of the best family films and one of the best films of 2024 because it was just so much fun. It was just such pure enjoyment that you could go in to the theater, watch this movie. I know my kids cannot wait until it comes out on digital so we can watch it again, but it was just one that was just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and this was really a really good year for the. You've noticed the adjectives we use a lot are stunning visually, visually stunning films. We had a lot of that, and in my opinion, the most visually stunning film probably of 2024 is also one of the best films of the year as well, and that's Dune Part 2. Dune had this huge budget, and I think it even over delivered visually on it based on the huge budget. It's a fantastic movie. Timothy Chalamet is the lead in that, along with Zendaya, and it's just a continuation from Dune Part 1. I know everybody's excited for Dune Prophecy to kind of end it. It spun off another Dune series on Max.
Well, that's Dune Prophecy on Max.
Yeah, Dune Prophecy is the Max, but the last Dune film as well, coming up in a few years, hopefully. But yeah, definitely one of the best films of the year too. Like, it was a great continuation on the first one. It's visually stunning. I think it kind of gets a little bit lost with some of the more recent successful films, but I go back and look at a lot of people's end of year lists, and it's one of many people's top 2 or 3 movies on virtually every single list I've seen.
And it may have spawned one of the biggest memes of the year, too, which you know what I'm talking about. You've seen Del Toro's face everywhere and that GIF everywhere. And yes, I do say GIF, not GIF. I'm sticking by GIF.
You're allowed to be wrong, but I'll let you continue.
But yeah, Dune Prophecy. Dune Part 2 was fantastic, but you've got the best cinematographer probably in the business right now behind that, which that's still kind of up in the air because Batman Part 2 got delayed. Of course, he did the Batman and he's done both Dune films. Is he going to have time to do both? Is he going to be able to do Dune Part 3? Is he going to do Batman Part 2? Hopefully he's able to do both now, especially with the Batman being delayed, but he is the absolute best cinematographer out there. That such sweeping, beautiful visuals, but that's also probably up there with, Avatar has been one of the pinnacles of CGI animation and stuff, but Dune has up there. It's big up there, especially if you realize just how much is CGI in that movie and stuff, and it looks smooth and good and great. But yeah, I really love Dune Part 2. It's another one that you didn't realize as long as it is, and it just, of course, the infamous Dune popcorn bucket that came out from it that spawned the Deadpool and Wolverine bucket and all that stuff. But Dune Part 2 was one of the best films of the year and visually stunning, great acting. I'm really looking forward to see how Dune Messiah ends it all up because that's the last one of that trilogy. They're not going to let Dune die because it's making a lot of money. There's a lot of people interested in it again. There's a lot of material to work from the books with it. But this is the last for this group doing these films. So I'm really looking forward to see how that ends. But that's probably 2 or 3 years away now. I think maybe 2027 before we see that. But Part 2 is one I definitely plan on rewatching a few more times because it was visually stunning, but it's a great movie.
Yeah, and Paul Atreides as a character is just so interesting how they've presented him on screen because you have this whole dynamic of you want to root for him, and then you kind of want him to kind of get a little bit of his comeuppance because you see this kid who's kind of come up and he's being labeled the Messiah and the savior of of these people and the savior of Arrakis, and he's you start to root for him, and then you kind of start seeing him buying into his own hype by the end of the film. He's getting a little bit of an ego, and like this
turning into the villain.
Yeah, almost where you kind of want to see him like, all right, buddy, like let's see it. But it's so well done, well written, and well portrayed. Timothy Chalamet does a fantastic job with this, and I'm really excited to see how they wrap everything up with Messiah because, like you said, the meme with Lisan Al-Gaib was just everywhere for several months, and it was just really fun and really hammered home. But at the end, it was just such a well-done movie that you can't not have it on your 2024 list.
I'm going to sneak one in here because it technically came out in 2023, but this version of it came out in January of 2024.
I know what you're about to do.
I'm going to put it on here because I absolutely loved it. I saw it in January, so it counts. It's Godzilla -1 color. So yeah, December of 2023, Godzilla -1 came out, fantastically done. Then in January 2024, here we got the minus color version, just a black and white. They did a few more. There was something about the black and white version that just hit me so much harder. It got the emotions deeper in that movie, but it also made Godzilla a little more terrifying because he's a little more darker and more menacing in the black and white. But there's something about that black and white cut that just hit me hard. Like we saw the regular version. We went back in January here to see the minus color version, and I was kind of blown away after I saw it. I'm like, I loved it as Godzilla -1 in the full color. but there's just something exponentially better to me about the black and white version. Like, it was so fantastic that I had to include it. Even though the main movie came out in 2023, this version was part of 2024, and it is well worth it. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. You can pick up Blu-rays of it now and the 4K versions of it now. See this film. It is fantastic. And I would almost recommend doing what we did. See the color version first, then see the black and white and see how you think of the difference there. But the black and white is my preferred version, and that came out in January of 2024.
This is one of those rare occasions, just to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, where we talked a little bit more about this going into this episode than we typically do going into our other episodes, because we kind of want our conversations to be more fluid and, like, as we're talking, as if we're talking about it for the first time, because in most cases we don't talk about these films after we see them, and we usually go see them at the theater together, where we really don't talk about it afterwards, where it's just like, hey, this is going to be a fun one to talk about when we meet and do the podcast, just because we want our honest reactions together at the same time. But I was giving you a little bit of grief for wanting to put this on the list. I was like, you're going to get a couple comments your way about including a movie that came out in 2023 on your 2024 best of list. But I don't disagree with the fact that it's not an amazing, an incredible film and an incredible version of the film. You're getting by on semantics a little bit, and I'll allow it. I'll allow you to
disagree that it came out in January 2024.
Yeah, okay. but you know, like, I'll allow it. I'll allow it on this list. But it's so good. I can't disagree with that. The merits of the film are fantastic. It won an Oscar for a good reason, for visual effects and everything on such a small budget. And you know, we've been raving about this movie since we started doing this podcast, and you know, it continues to. You know, it'll continue to rank very highly on both of our personal lists for a long time to come, just because of how well it's done. And it's just reinvigorated our love for those old school monster movies that you're kind of starting to see a little bit more of a renaissance in the film industry now. Like, you have, you know, a movie that we both had on our list for the best films of the year, which just recently came out, which is Nosferatu, which is a remake of the old vampire Dracula story. Godzilla Minus One really helped elevate, you know, in popularity, those old school monster type feels that, like, now you're getting the Universal Park in Orlando that's opening this year that has an entire section of the park dedicated to the old school monsters of yesteryear, with your Frankensteins and your stuff. And we're getting some of those movies this year, and we'll talk about them when we come up with movies that we're looking forward to. Like, you're going to see more of those creatures getting their own films this year, and it's really fun to see. But yeah, Godzilla was definitely one that had to, like, kicked off and brought up front our love for those types of films again, and it just really set the tone for what was a really good year for that in 2024 for sure.
And you can go back in our archives in 2024 to see our review of Godzilla Minus One Minus Color. I've got to give him crap on it because, yeah, it did come out in December, but this specific version, the black and white version, which I'm adding to the list, did come out this year, and it is just so fantastic. I said, so much drama. I've watched now because we watch the original sub version, and that's the preferred version I have of it, but I did go back and watch a dub version. But there's something about watching it how it was intended to be seen, and watching in black and white that was so fantastic. But we even got, like you said, with the monster stuff, we had Monarch on Apple TV Plus. We had Godzilla and Kong versus Kong, X Kong, whatever you want to call it, the New Empire. That's not on our 2024 list, but it did gangbusters last year as well, and it was a fun film. So yeah, the monster movies are really taking kind of a big comeback, but I had to sneak that in there and get that in there because it's one of my favorite movies I've seen in the last few years, and getting my preferred version in 2024, just I had to mention it.
Yeah, it was also a really big year in horror films as well, because there were a lot of horror films that did really well at the box office. Like we mentioned, Nosferatu is one that's doing really well off the top here at the end of 2024, moving into 2025. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, you know, kind of like an action horror hybrid that both you and I really loved, and that was Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus was really well done. You had Fede Alvarez come back to make like this horror updated action version of Aliens that I think really did well as well. And, there's so many good horror movies that came out this year, and there was so many to list that we could talk about. Like, obviously, Alien Romulus is probably the highest ranking for us as far as like that genre movies. But I know you're not a big fan of it, but you can't not mention the fact that Terrifier 3 did as well as it did. Like, really made a ton of money. In
It's not that I'm not a fan of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but I know how you feel about the over the top, gory, gratuitous, violent stuff, and a lot of people feel a very particular way about that, and you have very strong opinions about it. But it did commercially do very well at the box office, and it was kind of a bigger horror hit of the year.
Yeah, I think based on total box office numbers and what it cost to make, it is the most profitable film of 2024.
Yeah, for good reason. Like, it made a ton of money. I know one that I don't think you have seen yet, because I don't think you may not have. I forget if you've seen the first one, but Smile 2 was another one that did really well. That I really enjoyed. I actually prefer Smile 2 over Smile 1. Like, I think it's an overall better movie. But it was kind of a good year for horror films, and like a lot of them did surprisingly very well at the box office. We had some that we didn't care for as much, but others that we did. And we included Heretic on here as well.
I was gonna say I'm doing honorable mention to Heretic because it surprised me.
Yeah.
Like Hugh Grant coming into horror and kind of all set in this house and having, being about religion and everything else. But it was kind of a surprise horror film for me that I thought it had, great atmosphere. It visually looked great. Like, I think it did a really good job, that it was worth a mention of being one of the better horror films of 2024.
Absolutely. And there were some misses, but looking ahead to 2025 that we're going to do here shortly, a lot of the movies that we're talking about going to see fall in that horror realm, including one of the very first ones we're going to watch this year and do a review on. Like, I'm excited for the year that horror is about to have, because there's some really highly anticipated remakes, a couple sequels, some really big horror films to look forward to in this year as well, that I think is going to be a big year for the genre, which I absolutely love because I love horror movies. But it's going to be a big year for that in 2025 as well. But yeah, it was a good year, man. Like, I think horror's, like, over the last couple years especially, is kind of really rebounded from having a real lull period to where you're seeing some really high quality horror movies coming out again, and it's exciting to see for sure.
And as we talk about 2025 here in a little bit, like, Blumhouse has been one of the bigger independent studios doing a lot of horror films. I think they've got like 5 releases in 2025.
Yeah,
but
a whole bunch.
I do want to do 2 last honorable mentions with 2024 because I did enjoy them so much. And I'll just start off one that I know we both had a big connection to, the original Twister. Twisters was a fun movie.
Sure,
I had a great time with it in theaters. It visually looked stunning. You got Glenn Powell being charismatic as usual with everything. He got to kind of play, would you think he's going to be the villain, but he's actually kind of a good guy in it as well. I thought that was a fun follow-up. Like, it followed a lot of the formula of Twister, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Sure. And I think it did a really good job of kind of bringing it back and bringing into a new generation and a new world of meteorology and everything else. Like, I thought it was a really fun, like, I would put it up there. It's not one of the best movies of 2024, but one of that I got the most enjoyment out of in 2024.
Yeah, we absolutely had a blast watching that movie, and you go back in our archives and check out our review fully for more on that. But that was one that definitely had a little bit of polarizing opinions. Like, people either went like, I really enjoyed it, or I really didn't like it, which was kind of surprising because I know it's definitely not going to have the same cultural impact as the original Twister had. The original Twister was just an absolute monster of a movie at the time that it came out. And this one still did really well at the box office. I think it still wound up being a top 10 grossing movie of the year. I have to go back and double check that. But it did commercially really well. And I was genuinely happy with the experience that I had in the theater going to see it, because we had a lot of fun with it. And it's one that really, I think, helped, a big year for Glenn Powell and kind of really helped push him higher into, that A-list status for sure for him.
That's one I wish we had a 4D theater that was close enough
Sure,
for us to really go to just see how that was. But I've heard some people talk about it where it really threw them around and everything else. But it would have been fun to see. We tried to see if we could get it showing at the OmniMax at the Cincy Museum Center, and Dad felt that would have been great, because if you don't know that, it's a globe screen that goes completely around your head and you're laying back, and it would have been a lot of fun to watch on it. But the last one I really want to touch on 2024, because I don't think a lot of people saw it, and it was a smaller kind of release, even though you have powerhouses in Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. But this is one of my favorite films of 2024 is We Live in Time. Like, it was a very beautiful but dark, dramatic, sad, just powerful performance by Florence Pugh, and Andrew Garfield also did fantastic in it. Like, it was really raw, really emotional, and it was also dealing with a year that we had one of our good friends lost their mom to cancer, and we were dealing with a lot of loss from in our friend verse and everybody around there, and having that had a big impact watching this, because this is one, if you're going through something tough emotionally, like, it's going to hit you hard, because it doesn't shy away. Like, Florence Pugh just bears all in so many different ways in this movie, and I think she should be up for and winning awards for her performance in that. But it was one that really kind of caught me off guard of how much I really enjoyed it, just because of, I mean, I love Florence as an actress and stuff, and she always gives her all, but it was one of those that really just caught me and got me emotionally. It's one I'm still thinking about to this day, that, you know, I haven't been able to watch with my wife yet, because, you know, she dealt with a lot of that loss, and I said, this is going to hit you hard, so you've got to wait until you're emotionally ready to watch this film, because it's going to pack a punch.
Yeah, it is a proverbial emotional gut punch in that movie. Absolutely loved it. I think Florence Pugh is an incredibly brilliant and gifted actress. She's so good. She's really coming into her own with these movies. This is a movie that actually just came out in the UK at the start of 2025. Like, there was a whole press campaign, like, I know on social media with, like, Andrew and Florence is like, hey, we're finally in the UK. Like, I know Florence was excited for that movie to finally come out over there, so it could wind up being on some people's best of 2025 list if we're throwing 2024 movies out there like we are with Godzilla. Just kidding. But no, it was a really well done movie. I love this movie so much. It's a beautiful tale about how people look at the potential end of their life and how they want to choose to live, and how, you know, it affects people close to you that you love, and the people around you, and how they would like potentially have a point of view on how you live the end of your days and everything. And it's such, like you said, you have to be in a certain place mentally, I think, to get the most out of it. Like, I don't think it's probably the best movie if you're already if you're looking for something uplifting. This isn't the film. It's definitely not. But that doesn't take away from the effectiveness of the movie and the incredible story that they do tell. And it's absolutely deserving to be a spot on our favorite movies of 2024, because it's so well done, brilliantly acted. Andrew Garfield does so much with so little in this movie, because they don't give him a ton of depth.
Florence is the star. It revolves around her, but Andrew does such a great job of being that companion about that. Like, he gets to go through an emotional journey of his own, and he gets to grow and everything else, and gets to do some humor and drama and everything else too. But yeah, Florence is definitely, it's so good. Just shows just how incredible she is as an actress.
Yeah, she's quickly becoming one of my favorites, and in my opinion, anything that she's in becomes a must-watch for me.
Oh, absolutely.
And she's, for that reason, and she really shines. This might be my favorite individual performance she's given in any movie so far.
Yeah, she's absolutely one. If I see her name attached, I don't need to see a trailer. I don't need to know anything about the movie. I'm there to watch it, because so I know she's going to just do her absolute best she could possibly do in the film. And yeah, I'm there if it has Florence in it.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good way to end our year of film in 2024. So many good things to look at. Please go back in our archives and check out what we thought of every single movie that we've watched in 2024. So much to look forward to in 2025 that we're going to get to here in a little bit, but we're going to move over into our best of TV in 2024. 2024 had a lot of really good things in TV as well. Some really high, like, the things that were our favorites are kind of coming up on our best of all time lists. And I think you and I would both be remiss if we didn't talk about, at the beginning, the one show that is easily far and away our favorite show of 2024, and that was Shogun.
Yeah, Shogun was absolutely incredible. I mean, it was another one kind of like Godzilla Minus One that you could, it was aired on FX or Hulu, but you could watch it dubbed or subbed. The sub version was the preferred way. Seeing these actors and actresses do it in the original language that it was intended for in Japanese, and Anna Sawai was unbelievable as Mariko. She should win every single award she's up for, because that was probably the best performance of the year that I had seen in 2024. Like, she just absolutely killed it. And then it's not to say that anybody else in the show, everybody was incredible, but there was just something that stuck out to me about her performance, that she was, and she played a big part of it. She was the kind of the heart and the soul of the series, but it was just unbelievably incredible. And again, another visually stunning production that they filmed it all in, I think, Canada, but it was in feudal Japan, set in feudal Japan, and like, I couldn't tell.
Yeah, you couldn't tell, visually just stunning. The performances all around were incredible in this. It won a ton of Emmys, as we predicted it would. So we'll give ourselves a little pat on the back for that, for kind of recognizing that, and kind of foreshadowed that it was going to win all the awards, because it deserved to. It was just an incredibly brilliant show that we did our episodic watch along on this. I've gone back and binged watched it, and I'm really glad now that I've done that. I'm really glad that we did the episode week by week breakdown of this show, because I think it had a better impact on me than watching the entire thing in a binge setting. So it's a fun study of those like types of shows to see if they work better if you're waiting with anticipation for what comes next versus getting the entire show and watching it back to back to back. I had a better experience watching it like episodically. Not that I'm saying it was any worse per se, watching it in a binge setting where I watched all the episodes on like a Sunday or a Saturday where I had the entire day to watch the entire thing. But it was so good, so well done. Hats off to everybody that made that show. Visually stunning, incredibly acted, great story. We can feel how we want about the second and potentially third seasons that they're going to do moving forward, but in a vacuum, this first season was, in my opinion, absolutely perfect from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely one of the best seasons of TV that has ever been made. Like, I think it was just brilliant. And that's why we're so hesitant on the season 2 and 3 that was announced, because it was a miniseries. As originally announced, that it's a one-off. They're not doing anymore. They basically covered most of the stuff in the book that it's based off of. The rest of the books in the series are set many years apart, but they're, continuing on with the season 2 and 3. But we're hesitant just because we loved season 1 so much. Like, we have faith because they have, most of the same people are moving forward with season 2 and 3 that are left at the end, that they're going to do a good job by it. But it's because season 1 is so incredible. That's why we're so like, should you go back and touch something that was near perfection or was absolute perfection? Like, should you go back and mess with that at all? Because it could, potentially hurt the legacy a little bit of it, but we'll always have season 1 no matter what. And yeah, it was definitely one that was best to watch week by week, and having that time between, because it made you think about it. It gave you that anticipation for the drama and what's going to happen next. And that is one that you could see, like, even though it's still incredible to binge, you don't have that anticipation that week by week got you of, okay, what's happening next? I need it, I want it, but nope, you've got to wait a week instead of, okay, back, and I finished it all in a day. Like, it definitely can be done that way, and I did binge as well afterwards, but it was like, it's one of those that really shows. There's some that are great and fantastic to binge and just watch it all in one sitting or in a couple days, but this is one that was true classic TV that was, you got to watch week by week and just see it and stew in what happened for a little bit and be ready to watch the next episode. Like, it was just absolutely incredible. We cannot recommend it enough. Go back in our archives. You can see what we thought of every single episode, but it was just fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just more than deserving of our top spot. Going to be hard for anything to top that. But one show that I feel came very close and was kind of a surprise at how well the show was The Penguin season 1 on Max. Now, you have, very strong opinions about the Robert Pattinson Batman film, but I think a lot of people agree one of the highlights that came out of that was Colin Farrell's portrayal of the Penguin, and how he just completely physically loses himself in that role, where if you didn't know it was him, you wouldn't know it was Colin Farrell playing it. And what we got was just this incredible ride for an entire season of this, I would say, Sopranos-esque mafia crime drama series that just gave us some incredible performances across the board, and most notably Colin Farrell, obviously, as the Penguin, but also Kristen Milioti as
she was fantastic.
Sophia, and it was just such an incredible an incredible run for her that these guys are getting their flowers with these award season nominations, and I'm so happy and thankful to see that. And what at the end we got was just this incredible, like, it didn't necessarily have to be comic book adjacent, but it had comic book characters, but it's such a wonderfully told mob crime action drama thriller series that we got out of this that I was completely blown away by.
Yeah, you didn't have to know with how they handled this that it was based off of a comic book or had comic book characters in it. Like, you have a couple references to Batman and what happened in the Batman, which I absolutely loved. Robert Pattinson's The Batman. I thought it was, again, visually stunning because they had the best cinematographer in the business right now handling it, but it was a dark, dramatic, deep detective Batman film. And you continue that on with the Penguin. You had high hopes for it, but you weren't sure. But Colin Farrell as Oz was incredible. He disappeared into the character. Because, I mean, he not only had on his face, like, he had full body prosthetics to get him into this character. Because you get the Penguin stripped down in an episode, and it never looked out of, like, just never looked bad. It never looked like he's wearing a suit. Like, it looked like this guy that I don't really know who this is, and his accent and the walk, and like, he disappeared and just fully went into the character. But yeah, Sophia Falcone was fantastic of the layers she had, because she's kind of dealing with not exactly mental illness, but the mental torment that she's gone through from her family and being going into prison and brought back out, and what she wants to do. And she had these peaks and valleys and everything that she went through. Like, I thought it was going to be good, but I wasn't expecting just how good this series ended up being.
Yeah, and you get like this incredible character arc for Sophia that, you know, she gets her revenge. She goes on this rampage against everybody where she just kind of wants to burn the entire world down, and she doesn't care what happens to her family's legacy. She starts a new legacy and a new name and a new family for herself, and, you know, you really pull for her. And, you know, she has the fate that she has in the show. I'm not going to spoil that if you haven't watched it. Go back and watch it because it's so worth the watch. I will. This is definitely one I'll be going back and revisiting at some point this year. I definitely want to go back and watch it again, but you wind up hating her, and then you root for her, and then you're just like, you feel the empathy for her, like man, she's gone through so much, but like, she's this amazing, awesome, powerful, strong woman at this point. And then, you know, you get this dastardly Penguin who's just kind of willing to cut the throat of whoever he needs to get to his goals and what he wants. And, you know, he's always got his own angle to play, and that's what makes it such. The writing on it is just so brilliant.
Incredible.
Like, you never know like what's going to happen from one episode to the next, and I love that about it. And it's another one that I think really benefited from a weekly release as opposed to the entire season, because you do get that time to digest what happened and kind of play a little bit with like, okay, how is he going to get out of this situation, or how are they going to do that, or they leave you on this incredible cliffhanger at the end of the episode where Sophia goes on this full rampage on her family, and, you know, like, you're just like, oh, that's how we're ending it? Crap, now I gotta wait 7 days for this to come out again. And it's a fun part of that journey that I really love of weekly episodic television. That we got some really good things out of this year, and for that reason, man, Penguin's just a stellar show that I had so much fun watching.
And like what you mentioned with Sophia, the same thing was with Oz. Like, it got you sympathetic to him and made you feel bad for him of the hard life he's been, but then they reveal more of the darkness and the evil behind him. And especially the very last episode that everyone was talking about and still talking about, you know, justice for Victor and everything, that it got you sympathetic to him, then hating him, and then sympathetic, and then hating him, and sympathetic, and then you get to the fun episode, loathe that guy.
He's a villain.
But that's just such brilliance on the acting, but the writing just took you on this roller coaster throughout their whole story, this whole story, because you could feel sympathetic but hate him at the same time, and it took you back and forth so many times until it finally got you to where, all right, I'm still kind of sympathetic towards her, but he just, you're evil, you're horrible, no more Penguin, like, you are a true villain. And that was fantastic because you got the sympathy of making him kind of the hero and star of the show, but also being the villain and the most hated person in the show at the same time.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they played with like the different emotional states of the characters and all the different emotional journeys they go on, because you deal a lot with, you know, that mental torment and anguish, and, you know, how that affects somebody mentally with Sophia, but you also have that with in a big way with Oz, with the Penguin. Like he had some, the issues that he had with his mother and how his mother treated him, and the story with his siblings that he has, and just this mom complex that he has, and just how it affects how he's able to either effectively or not effectively get things done. And like I said, the writing on it was just incredibly brilliant. And they touch on a lot of really serious mental struggles in a good way in this show that kind of manifest themselves in the episodes and just take you on this amazing journey that I was, like I said, couldn't have been more surprised with how much I love this. I was really already looking forward to it, but it over-delivered in a big way for this show that I think will have ramifications for everything else that they do with that small pocket of a universe that they're still trying to build out on. That it's going to be hard to top. It's one of those, I would be okay with it if it was just one season, but I kind of want to come back to it at some point and give us a season 2 of it. I would love to see another trek into that world for him, just based off of, how it ends. And then we don't know what they're doing with him in the movie yet. Like, can we come back and see this character and visit this world again? I would be all for it.
It fits in with Shogun so well in that way that if it was just this, then we're perfectly fine with it because it was such an incredibly well-told story. But if we get more and they do it right and do it well, then like, thank you, because these were incredible stories with incredible characters that kind of want to revisit. Penguin, I'm a little more open to revisiting just because there's so much more to be told with the story. Shogun did kind of encapsulate everything in the one season, so that's why, again, I'm more hesitant on seeing where it goes. But yeah, the Penguin was just fantastic. Go back in our archive, see what we thought about it. But even if you're not a comic book fan, if you don't like comic books, go watch a show because it is a crime, mobster, gangster show that you don't have to have knowledge or liking of comic books to watch and enjoy.
For sure. Definitely one to appreciate whether you're a comic fan or not.
And one I want to throw in here, which I know you haven't watched, but it rounds out my top 3 of the year in TV shows, is Shrinking. So season 2 of Shrinking came out. This is one of the best shows on TV. It's on Apple TV Plus. I don't think a lot of people, I mean, it's popular, but I don't know a lot of people have seen it that deserves to be seen by more because it is so well done. It's created by Bill Lawrence, who also did Ted Lasso and Scrubs and many other shows. Like, he's a fantastic creative that has done some amazing work. If you love Ted Lasso, you should love Shrinking because it's got the similar balance of raunchy humor, regular humor, but drama, because it deals with, a main psychologist played by Jason Segel who lost his wife to a drunk driver, and he has struggled with it. He's a psychologist, but he's struggling with trying to find the balance because it's now him and his young daughter alone, and the mom was taking just way too soon. But the best part of this show is Harrison Ford. He is unbelievably incredible in this show. He gets to play his normal grumpy old man, but there's so much heart and drama and humor that you get with him. Like, you get him singing and belting out songs which I didn't expect, and like there's just so much that you get to play off him. And this is one of the best things that Harrison Ford has ever done, and I put that up there with a lot of his iconic stuff, like, because there's so much depth and so much that you get from him. And season 2 took that even further because there's a medical issue that he's dealing with, and it brings struggles and it brings different things to light with him, and it is just absolutely incredible. And I hope you're able to start it soon, because especially with knowing how much we love Ted Lasso and stuff that we both did, that you're gonna love Shrinking.
Yeah, and you sell it really well, and you're not the first person to recommend this show to me. Like, I've had multiple people tell me, like, why haven't you watched this? You rave about Ted Lasso and how much you love it. Ted Lasso is arguably top 3 TV series of all time for me, and it's if it shows that same love and you get the same people behind it making this, I'm all for it. I've told you, like, off air before we came on here, it's the next show I'm going to start after I kind of catch up on some of the ones I'm in the middle of watching, but it's literally the next show I plan on starting, and for that reason, I'm more than hyped to check it out. I love that it's making it onto your list as well. I can't speak too much of it because I haven't seen it, but I think you've done a good enough job with it. I'm already sold and definitely planning on watching it next. I would be remiss if I didn't round out my quote unquote top three if I had to put them in order without mentioning one of the best shows on television, period, right now. And if you look at any award show, they're winning all of them every time they're nominated. It's The Bear. The Bear season 3 was phenomenal, fantastic. This show is really firing on all cylinders, and it's like that show that is in that lexicon of shows that everyone that's in it really explodes out of it. And you get Jeremy Allen White, who is incredible, and he's really blowing up everywhere and doing so many things like in Hollywood. He's getting to that A-list status. You have Ayo Edebiri, who's a phenomenal actress in her own right and just an incredibly complex, in-depth character in this show. You have, the cousin who is getting ready to be in one of, if Evan not going Moss, to be who's going to be in one of, if not the biggest film of 2025 in the, in the Fantastic Four movie. And we'll get to that when we talk about 2025. But this show is so incredibly well done. It's such a great mix of comedy and drama. It leans more into the drama that has some humor moments. It makes me laugh when it comes to award season that they put it in the comedy section.
They need to change that stuff. Like, there need to stop being so many like musicals being put into comedy or dramas being put comedy, musical, drama. All those need to be separate. They are completely. They can be mixed and be within each other, but like, even though it's winning all the awards for comedy, it should be in there for drama. It should, they need to separate out those categories some more, because there's just so much that's getting, best musical or comedy. No, best musical, best comedy, best drama series. Like, separate those.
Sure, yeah, and you can have multiple elements. But I think what this does is it walks such a fine line that I'd say if you had to give it like a 50-50 split between comedy and drama, I'd say it's more 65-35 in the drama comedy, where you get the comedic elements of it in. And the comedic elements just come from their interactions with each other, and their, the way they speak to each other, the way they handle things is just so over the top and absurd. And you're like, are these real people? Yes, these are absolutely real. They feel like absolutely real people that you would like interact with in real life. And I think that's what's so good about the writing in the show is like, there's somebody on this show that you can relate to. Like, everybody can relate to at least one person on this show. And it's such a brilliantly written show. This season was phenomenal. If you haven't gone and seen this show yet, out of everything that we talk about here and recommend, this is the one that's easily the most bingeable, that you can catch up on the quickest, because the episodes do tend to be about 30 minutes each, where some of these other shows we've talked about are like hour-long episodes that take a little bit longer to catch up if there are multiple seasons of it. But for this, so good. The writings on it is brilliant. I'm so eager to see how this next season plays out. I know we've talked about it before, most of the season's already filmed coming up, that they've only got a couple more episodes to shoot before that comes out later this year. So looking forward to that. But this season, you get this next step in this restaurant that's finally getting open. You get the opening of the Bear, and you start to see, the struggles that they deal with, just starting up this restaurant, and the way that Jeremy Allen White's character's personality, Carmy, is, he's wanting to change this menu every single day, and they're struggling with keeping up with that, and he's trying to make it a Michelin restaurant, and everything hinges on these reviews that he's finally getting, and it leaves us with a really fun cliffhanger that leads into season 4, and I'm just so chomping at the bit to continue the show.
Notice as a chef that you hate sharing a name with, because he's such a jerk, played by Joe McHale, done brilliantly, but you're like, why does he have to have my name?
Why does he have to have my name? Like, come on, man.
But yeah, The Bear is fantastic. I'm glad this is another one that I could get you. I think with how much you love The Bear, you're going to feel very similar to Shrinking as well. But The Bear is fantastic. Like, it is, like you said, it has such great humor that just feels raw and natural, and just, it almost like, did they ad-lib all this stuff because they're just like ribbing on each other and everything. But it's also one of the shows that has probably the best collective of guest stars that just absolutely destroy it every time, because you got John Bernthal plays his deceased brother, and you get to go back in the past and see kind of where he started with the restaurant and kind of all the drama with his family, with Jamie Lee Curtis as the mom and everything. Like, the guest stars just absolutely just they're nominated almost every single season here because of how incredible they do. Like they bring a lot of heart and humor, but also, of course, we've got Jamie Lee Curtis brought so much drama
Brilliant.
in the birth episode and everything there. That and what John Berthoff still one of my favorite episodes was when they went back and revisit him and how he brought some of the staff in there, and we got some really great kind of heart to heart, emotional like conversations that was done in that episode, which was just absolutely incredible. Like I'm trying to think of, and there's been many other shows and that does it, but I mean, this has one of the best collective of guest stars that not only just show up just to be there to be a guest star or something, they bring some meat to the story and to the show and just doing. And there's some that are just there, like we had John Cena show up with some more just comedy humor aspects and stuff, all that, and we have a few that are like that, but there are some that are really bring a lot of hard emotion and meat to this series, and it is one of the best series on TV.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's one that rakes in awards, and a lot of people tend to like roll their eyes when you hear like, oh, it's an award-winning show. Like a lot of times those, like especially with films, like it's an Academy Award-winning film, and you feel like it's kind of this stuffy artistic like type film that a lot of people find boring. But this show is definitely not boring. It's so well written, so well acted, and everything just plays off each other so well that I can't not have it in my list of top TV shows of the year every year when it comes out, because it's just as good now as it's been in season 1. When you get to season 3, you get these really good, like you said, these one-off episodes here with like a Jamie Lee Curtis who's phenomenal, got an Emmy Award nomination, big shock, right, for that, and you love to see that. All the cast are amazing, and it's really fun to see them now really exploding out into Hollywood and becoming big stars in other projects, and it's just a testament to how well they do on this show that they're able to really take off out of that. Because like you said, it feels like once a generation, if not a couple times a generation, you get one of these types of TV shows that just the entire cast and ensemble cast are so good that they all like really branch out and become big name elite Hollywood actors. Like Friends was one, or back before that you had like Cheers was one that really exploded, and then everybody on that show did so well. Like you get like once or twice a generation where you get a show like that that really spawns an entire cast of just mega stars, and this is the one for the current generation that's really having that effect in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're everywhere, and that's kind of why they already had to film most of season 4 because of all the films and projects that these guys have going, guys and gals have going on, because they're just doing so much stuff because they've exploded from here. And of course, I love Jeremy Allen White from Shameless. If you never watched that, it's another that one has a lot of humor, but that's a very dark, deep show that deals with everything. It shies away from nothing. So if you're a fan of his and you haven't seen that, Shameless is absolutely one that's worth a binge. If you fell in love with him from The Bear or something else, but yeah, his star is, he's going to voice in the next Star Wars film in Mandalorian Grogu, that he's in everything. He's playing Bruce Springsteen. Like he's really skyrocketing, and it's great because he is such a good actor and he does such a great job. But the next one I want to throw out is one that brought us back to our childhood, that we just, when we heard they were doing it, we were like, wait, they're doing it? They're going back? X-Men 97.
So good.
The continuation of X-Men, the animated series from the 90s. It picks up right after where it left off. This was incredible. This is when you show that you have care for the subject matter, for the characters, for the comics, for the show, for everything else of what you can do, because they really hit a home run with season 1 of X-Men 97. We got humor, we got drama, like Gambit and Rogue are two favorites, and there was such a hard-hitting episode. Like we even talked to, the voice actors and the cast of the show. Like we haven't recovered from these episodes. That just killed us. Like that just hit us so hard, especially what she said as Rogue and what we had as Gambit there. And like that episode was just like, okay, they're not playing around.
Yeah, it's such a well-written show too. Like on its own. Take away the fact that it's an animated series, like it's a really well-written show, period, whether you're a fan of animation or not. Like it hits so many nostalgic notes for us because we do have such a strong connection to X-Men the animated series from our childhood, and this brought it really into a modern story where it just really picks up from where X-Men the animated series leaves off and is a continuation of that. But so brilliantly done. So many of the voice actors from the X-Men the animated series came back to do their voices in this, whether they played the exact same character or in some cases a different character. But the guy that played Magneto was phenomenal as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the brilliance of Allison Seeley Smith as Storm, who just has that incredible booming presence and iconic voice as Storm that you get, and she just does such a good job in that character. It has such an incredible story in this first season that we're both chomping at the bit for the next season and the third season now that are going to be coming up hopefully within the next year or so. That we're excited for those to come out as well, and just you can go back in our archives and see what we thought about that as another one that we did an episodic weekly watch along with that we just got so much enjoyment out of. And really, if you have something like that that has anything in particular that really sticks with you significantly long after you watch it, like I still can't get over the Rogue and Gambit episode. Like I recently went back and binged watched the entire season again, and I still
remember it.
Yeah, I still feel that just anguish in that end of that Rogue and Gambit episode where I'm so excited to see where they take it moving forward, because if you see the end, you don't know if it's necessarily the end of Gambit necessarily, but they kind of play with that a little bit. But such a well done, well written show that, animated or not, was just, how could we not include it on our list? As much as we ranted and raved and just gushed over the show as we watched it, 100% brilliant, just fantastic, phenomenal show as well, that I'm so excited for the follow-up for that we could not include that on our list.
Even the whole series, the whole season as a whole was fantastic, but that Remember It episode was the name's Gambit, Remember It, and Rogue just tearfully saying, I can't feel you. Yeah. And like just chills, like both of them nailed it. And it also added to the effect of all of it that we got to cover Cincy Comic Expo this year.
Sure.
And we got to sit in a panel about the original show, and in 97 we got to talk with cast members, and Lenore Zane, that I butchered her name and probably still butchering her last name or something else, like it was so fantastic to be able to talk to her, because that's where I fell in love with comics, was X-Men, the animated series, and especially where I fell in love with Rogue and Gambit was with her portrayal as Rogue, and get to talk to Storm and Rogue and Gambit and Beast, and got to talk with them, was just really really a ton of fun that I can't wait to do again and be able to speak with them on it, because they have so many great memories about doing the show, but they feel the love and they felt the importance of doing this season right by fans to be able to come back and do it. And they felt like it was a really important thing that they knew they had to get right as well, because they knew how big X-Men, the animated series, was, not only for them and their careers, but also for fandom in general. They knew they had a lot to get right with X-Men 97, and they absolutely did.
Yeah, they hit a home run and they crushed it. There's so much good television in 2024. Like, we could talk all day about every series that we watched and every movie that we loved. A couple other TV shows I wanted to highlight that we both got in a lot of enjoyment about. House of the Dragon season 2. That was another brilliant, continuation on such a good show that we're both chomping at the bit for the follow-up on that. It did so well on Max. It's brilliant. There's another House of the Dragon spinoff that we'll talk about when it comes to 2025. Game of Thrones, in that Game of Thrones universe, not necessarily a House of Dragon spinoff, but a Game of Thrones adjacent, in that universe that we're getting another show from. But an incredible season of that as well that we got a lot of enjoyment out of. We finally get Agatha All Along, that I think we both wound up really enjoying as well. That was kind of a sleeper hit for Disney as well. And then another one that was kind of a big hit that nobody really saw being a big hit, because we didn't know how good the show was going to be at the time. That was Fallout. I had a ton of fun watching Fallout on Amazon when it came out. It was one of those that was like, video game TV series. I don't know how they're gonna incorporate it, but that's another one that I got a ton of enjoyment out of. I know I kind of rapid fired a few of those TV shows, but there's so much good TV that we get to harp on that we just don't have time to cover.
Oh, I agree. All those were great. Fallout was a big surprise because it felt like a video game. You got some scenes that were like they were walking you through playing the video game, but it had that because Fallout is a very interesting series because it's in the future, but it's retro and it has some very dark humor and some graphic violence and everything else to it. And it nailed pretty much every aspect of it. So I really loved it as well. I wanted to throw out some love to Masters of the Air, because that was a great miniseries that we watched on Apple TV Plus that we did cover that you can go back in archives and see. That was beautifully done, well acted, told a great story overall. That's kind of a follow up and in the Band of Brothers and the Pacific kind of, which those are still, Band of Brothers still is one of the greatest TV shows of all time, miniseries of all time to me, because it was so incredibly done. And, Masters of the Air wasn't quite as good as those were, but it was still a very solid series, and you had an incredibly stacked cast in it as well. And I think they did a great job at that. And I did want to throw out, it's still running, so it hasn't ended yet, but especially after what we got with the Acolyte and the disappointment that we had in that series, Star Wars: The Skeleton Crew has been a really big breath of fresh air. Like, I've really enjoyed what we've got so far. We've still got a few more episodes before the season wraps up. It did start in December of last year, but I've had such a ton of fun with it. It is Goonies and Treasure Planet meets Star Wars, and I think like Jude Law has been fantastic playing this kind of, again, like good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. The kid actors have done a fantastic job as well. Like, I think it was worth mentioning in being one of the better shows of 2024 just because of the issues and the problems we had with the Acolyte. The Acolyte had such a great premise behind it and could have been really fantastic, but you can go back in archives and see exactly, we did an episodic walkthrough or watch through of all that, but it failed with its story, where I think Skeleton Crew has really done well by its characters and by the writing and the story. And it's a really good show that I'm looking forward to seeing wrap up here in about a week or so.
Yeah, I think they've done a better job with that show of kind of embracing the tone of the show that they want to set, and they kind of keep that consistent throughout what we've seen so far, and I'm excited to see how that wraps up as well. And it's kind of definitely a better swing in the right direction for Star Wars after that. Just I'm not going to sugarcoat it, the absolute garbage pile that we got from the Acolyte. And
I'm going to put up on screen here to send all hate mail to Josh. I'll give you his address, everything else. You come directly now.
Tell me how much you hated the Acolyte too, because that's a lot of the feedback.
It's very mixed. There's some people who loved it, but the general consensus is, it got canceled. It's not getting another season. Yeah. They said the main reason was because it cost them $200 million to do, and it was very pricey, but most people were disappointed. But it had great action sequences.
Sure.
It had a great villain in the end that we were almost cheering for over the Jedi and the people were following. It had so much potential to bring us into this world in the past of when the Jedi were big and prolific, and it just dropped the ball so hard. That's why Skeleton Crew was a good mention for me, because I feel like it's kind of nailed everything that it's tried to do.
Sure, and if you want to talk about a show that does action really well and got right, that tells a much better story, I'd be remiss if we didn't at least end our favorite shows of 2025 without talking about Terminator Zero Season 1. Like, we went back and talked about it. You can go in our archives and see how we felt about that entire season, but I think that one was the one that took the darkness, the violence, and gave us this beautiful animated telling of this story of a different way of looking at this Terminator story, and it's so well done visually, violent, but tells the story in a way that's more plausible, deals with more modern futuristic concerns like artificial intelligence, like things like that could play a bigger role in a potential Skynet takeover, right? Or things that we kind of joke around about still, but I think they did such an effective job of balancing the gratuitous violence with a well-told story as well, that in a way that made sense. Where the Acolyte failed in that, I think Terminator Zero really excelled in that, and I think our review of that show proved it.
Yeah, Terminator Zero was it. When you're hearing they're doing an anime version of Terminator, it could be good or bad, because an anime can be very polarizing depending on how extreme they go with a lot of stuff. And, there's so many different series out there that you either love or hate when it comes to anime. And they did a fantastic job. It was dark, it was bloody, it was graphic, but it did touch on, AI and brought us a different angle to the Terminator story that we hadn't really touched on before. And I think it did really well with a short episode run of telling us a solid story. And it is one of, my favorites of last year because it was a surprise. It was a surprise of just how good it ended up being.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun watching it. Like I said, go back into our archives and look at our episode for Terminator Zero and let us know what you think if you haven't watched it. Go check it out. It's definitely worth a watch for sure. I'm kind of tired of living in the past now, so let's go ahead and look at 2025 and everything we've got coming up. Now, we're going to do it.
No.
Going to do it.
No.
Stick with me.
Okay.
No, just kidding. But no, in 2025, there's so much stuff to look forward to. Like I said, you can't see it, but there are 2 full pages.
Yeah, it's probably not going to show up on camera very well if you're watching us, but it's like
so much stuff to look forward to in 2025 that we're kind of already low key planning our entire year out based on where things at. Obviously, things are going to be adjusted. Movies are going to get delayed. They're going to move dates. This is kind of as of the recording of this episode, like when these movies are coming out and some of the highlights. We're kind of going to go a little bit month by month and talk about some of the movies that are coming out every single month. So bookmark this episode, come back to it. If they change and you come back to this in like August and some of these releases change, sorry, this is a recording in January, but this is where we're at as of now, and there's so much stuff that we're looking forward to. Starting off the year for us next week, we're going to talk about Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, which is something I'm really looking forward to. It's Gerard Butler. It's O'Shea Jackson Jr. It's an action crime thriller film that's a follow-up to the original Den of Thieves movie. I don't necessarily think you had to have seen Den of Thieves to really appreciate this. The trailer looks awesome. It looks like a ton of fun, and I think it's a real fun way to kick off 2025 for us and what's going to be a big year.
Yeah, because normally when you think of the beginning of the year in January, February, even into March, it's kind of more of a lull when it comes to films and what's coming out. But this year it does seem like we're getting some more bigger films, some sequels, and some ones that kind of not giving us that small lull. That actually seems to happen more in like August, September, that we're getting some that are not as big. But yeah, we got Den of Thieves. We also have Wolfman. So this is Blumhouse's version of the classic Universal monster, and we see exactly how they pull off the horror. If you've seen any rated R movie in 2024, especially the back half, you've seen the trailer for Wolfman over and over again, and it looks solid. Like, it looks like it could be a lot of fun, could be really good horror film to look forward to. And you also have a couple kind of ones that you're not sure of that we have with Flight Risk with Mark Wahlberg being it takes place mainly in an airplane that they're transporting this guy who's going to be played by Topher Grace, who's going to he's got a court date that he's got to get to, but not everything goes as planned. And it looks like it could be interesting. You got Mark rocking a horseshoe haircut, to seeing him partially bald and all that. But also Companion is one that I'm really intrigued by. We've seen the same trailer over and over again. It's Jack Quaid listed as a romance thriller. But if you've seen the trailer, it's disturbing because they're sitting at a dinner scene and they're just staring in Jack Quaid, and I'm not sure of the actress's name, but they're just staring at each other, but you can see kind of tears in her eyes, and then it cuts, and like she's got her hand over a candle, and her arm is just engulfed in flames, and she's not like, oh, okay, it's going to be one of those movies.
Yeah, it's definitely one that looks intriguing on the trailer alone. Excited to talk about that one in January. You also have, like, for family-related movies, you have Dogman, which is kind of the animated telling of the classic children's story that I know you're looking for.
Yeah, my girls love the graphic novels.
For sure. Like, January is going to be a lot of fun. And you move into February, we actually have like 3 or 4 movies that I think are surprising that they're coming out in February. But you have Love Hurts, the Ke Huy Quan film that looks hilarious. Looks like this
looking forward to that
action comedy movie that looks a ton of fun. So glad that he's kind of come back, especially with Everything Everywhere All at Once and with Loki, like him kind of really just coming back into the spotlight. Love him as an actor now that he's an Oscar award-winning actor now, which is crazy. But
he's another one. If I see he's in the movie or TV show, I'm watching it because I just love him so much.
Love him. But in February, you're getting your first big Marvel blockbuster movie of the year with Captain America: Brave New World. You've seen the trailers for that everywhere. It's kicking off 2025 for Marvel. This is their next telling. This is the continuation of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where you have Sam as Captain America now, and you're kind of navigating. It looks like it could potentially be moving more into that Captain America Winter Soldier type of tone of film, which has me very excited. A little concerned with some of the stories coming out about the extra reshoots and everything that have come out about that, but a big budget film to kick off 2025 in a big way in February, and it just continues on from there.
Yeah, another big family film, like the Paddington movies
Yes.
have become almost like cult classics. Like people just, when they talk about their favorite movies, there's even a Twitter account that I follow that they Photoshop Paddington into a TV show or a film every single day, and it's been going for like 3 or 4 years now, and it's a very popular channel and everything else. Like, you just Photoshops Paddington and everything. Like, Paddington from the first movie into the second movie has just become this cult classic, and now we've got the third movie in Paddington in Peru coming out at the same time.
Can I ask you about that? I don't mean to cut you off, but is Paddington the Bear in the Bear? Is there
Why don't we have that crossover yet? Like,
that's the kind of the crossover.
Bear season 4, bring in Paddington.
Paddington the Bear at the Bear. Like, we got to have that. If you want to throw, I think more fitting for that show would probably be Ted. But if
I
you
do
want to
believe the
throw
Photoshop guy has put Paddington into the Bear.
has to. You got to have the Bear in the Bear. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to. I couldn't let that one slide.
Yeah, the next kind of grouping after this is some kind of interesting ones, because we have another Stephen King adaptation of The Monkey, which those could be very hit or miss, depending on how they do it. And The Monkey is kind of a very dark Stephen King horror movie. But we also have, finally, after Warner Brothers canceled one of them and never allowed it to see the light of day, we do have a Looney Tunes movie, The Day the Earth Blew Up, coming into theaters on February 28th. We're getting that out there. I'm looking forward to seeing that, but there was a lot of controversy, especially in 2024, because there were so many TV shows and movies that were getting canned before they were ever released, or if they were released, they were pulled off, deleted, no one's allowed to see him. And again, like, that was a very weird year for all that stuff. And one of the biggest ones was a Looney Tunes film that they talked incredibly good about, but it's not going to see the light of day.
Yeah, it's just another one of those weird directions that Warner Brothers is taking, where you just don't know what they're doing, and it seems like a big jumbled mess. But I'm excited to see that we're getting a Looney Tunes movie. When you go into March, you get one that we've kind of been intrigued by the trailer from in the last several films that we've gone and seen. That's Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson. Is this guy who kind of reaches an agreement to be a guinea pig to die over and over and over again. Kind of clones himself. It's a weird looking trailer that's fun. That I think it's going to be fun to at least watch. It's a very quirky Robert Pattinson film where he gets to be a little bit more of a sillier, goofier side than the serious actor that he tries to portray so many times in films, and it's going to be interesting to see that take for him. But
he's also doing a voice that I don't think we've ever heard come out of him. It's very high pitched and kind of geeky, dorky. Just couldn't say he's really talking like I can't even imitate. It's a very different voice that you didn't expect to come out of it. It fits the character from what we've seen of the trailer. Yeah. It seems to fit it very well, but not a voice I was expecting to hear come out of him.
Yeah, for sure. And then to kind of round out March, a highlight for March, one that's going to be, it's already very controversial based on the trailer and the images that we've seen come out of the film, and that's the Snow White live action CGI heavy a film that's going to have incredibly Gal Gadot as Maleficent, who's the evil witch in that. That's
everyone has comments on why is Gal Gadot jealous of her? Because she's Gal Gadot,
right? She's one of the most beautiful women on the planet. Why is she jealous of a teenage Snow White? But it's gonna be fun to. It's gonna be fun to see that, because I have no idea what we're gonna get out of that, because that's one
changed so much.
It's probably going to lean towards probably not liking it as much, but it's going to be a fun experience, because Snow White is, of course, the classic big original Disney movie, one of the OGs that kicked off everything for Disney. And just, you have a lot of very strong opinions about this movie that hasn't even come out yet. So it's going to be one that's definitely going to have a lot of people talking. And then we move into April, that's got two very highly anticipated films as well. And I'll start off by saying the Minecraft movie with Jack Black, Jason Momoa. It's one that it's gonna make a lot of money because of how incredibly popular Minecraft the game is, and excited to see that live action film for sure.
It's a little mix. The very first trailer was not a good trailer for it. It made it look like really rough. The second trailer was much better. It made you feel a bit better about it. It's going to be campy and corny and over the top,
But it knows
but yeah, that first trailer didn't, and you could look at the vitriol online about it too. That first trailer did it no favors. The second trailer was much better with it, and there's people who have mixed feelings on Jack Black as well, and you know, with him being Steve and being at the forefront of it, and Jason Momoa with whatever's going on with his hair and that movie and stuff. It's definitely going to be one it's going to be huge, but it's really going to be interesting to see how that movie turns out, because it is going to be so campy and over the top that if it can do it right with giving us some heart and more behind it, because it looks like it could be fun. The kids are going to enjoy it. They're looking forward to it, but it's one that I'm a little mixed on, mainly after that first trailer. That first trailer left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth because it wasn't well done.
Yeah, I agree. And to kind of round out April with a film that we've been talking about since we've started this podcast, one of the films that we had talked about is Sinners, and that's the Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan team up again that has this dark tone of like a horror action thriller type of movie. The trailer looks phenomenal on it, the way they present this film. It's one that I'm really, really, really looking forward to. It's
It
the
being
hype.
a vampire period piece that just looks like a lot of fun. Like, it doesn't show you a whole lot in the trailer, which I'm glad of. Like, I want to wait and be surprised when I go see this movie, because you see some action, but you don't get to see the creatures up close. You don't get to see exactly how they're doing the vampire or the creature aspect of this film. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And one that kind of comes after that is going to be one of the biggest, I think one of big movies of the summer's Thunderbolts. Like, this is very Suicide Squad-esque in the Marvel universe. You have, Florence Pugh returning as Elena, and you have just this ragtag group of anti-hero villain type of people coming together to do something. But biggest thing I'm excited about it is we have Bucky returning, looking like the Winter Soldier again, acting like the Winter Soldier again, because Captain America the Winter Soldier is one of my favorite films. That is still one of the greatest character introductions that I think we've had in a comic book film, because of Winter Soldier, just the mask and the outfit and the hair and that look that Sebastian Stan had, and the action sequences was just absolutely fantastic. And, he's been used a bit, but he's been in the background, and they've changed him. They cut his hair and kind of took a little bit back seat in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with that, but it looks like we're going to get at least a few action sequences where he looks like the Winter Soldier again.
Absolutely. The trailer looks like a ton of fun. You get another take, and it's one of the big movies that Marvel is hoping for. But May in itself is in my opinion, one of probably the two biggest months of the year, as far as like how loaded the schedule is for that. Because not only do you have Thunderbolts kicking us off in the beginning of May, you have what's going to be one of the biggest, and I'm not using hyperbole when I say it, probably one of the biggest films of the year that most people are looking forward to is the live action Lilo and Stitch, which is, the live action version of the iconic Disney, the animated film Lilo and Stitch.
One of my favorites, one of my family's favorites.
Yeah, just so fun. A lot of eyes are going to be on that. It seems like the little imaging that we've gotten from it so far, because they're doing really well. They're doing really well at kind of hiding what the movie is going to be about necessarily, and just giving us the visual of Stitch. And it looks well done. Like, I think the CGI on it looks pretty solid on it, but that's one that's definitely going to be one that a lot of people are looking for.
There was some fun with Mufasa. I'm going to jump in there on you, because they did a special trailer for Lilo and Stitch for Mufasa, because they lift Stitch up in the air and then he breaks free. And so like, they're doing a brilliant job with the limited marketing that they're doing, that they're just giving Stitch destroying a sandcastle or being, Simba and all that stuff. But yeah, we haven't got a full trailer for it yet, which is a little surprising, which you hope doesn't mean bad things about the quality. Yeah. But it's going to do gangbusters because of the absolute love that people have for Lilo and Stitch. And you do have the original voice actor for Stitch returning to play him, so at least you have that connection. Everyone else is kind of new. And we also have, that's one where people get a little too thirsty when it comes to her sister, with Lilo's sister in the movie. Like, hopefully people aren't going to be that creepy with a kids movie and live action here, but who knows? Like it's going to be a little crazy and the internet's going to go crazy. But you follow Lilo and Stitch up with potentially the final Mission Impossible movie. Now, this was supposed to be part 1 and part 2, but it changed. The name is changed to be the final Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The trailer paints it out that, Tom Cruise is saying, come with me one last time. They're painting it as being the final Mission Impossible movie, and I have absolutely loved this series. Like, whatever, regardless of what you feel about Tom Cruise and everything with Scientology and his personal life and everything, sure, the Mission Impossible films have been unbelievably incredible. One of the most consistent film series. Well, this is number 9. I think this is going to be
8 or 9.
8 or 9. Like, I'd say the first 2 people are a little more mixed on, but like once like 3 and on hits, especially the last 3 or 4, have been incredible action spy thriller films because, of course, Tom Cruise goes over the top of hanging off the side of a cliff or hanging off the side of an airplane or, driving a dirt bike off of a mountain. Like, he's gone overboard with the stunts that they've done, and it's been one of my favorite series, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends, but I'm also a little sad that it's ending. I mean, it's been going on for a long time now, but I mean, it's been an incredible blockbuster that is one of those pinnacle films of theater that you want to go and see it in a movie theater because it is a gigantic, big budget action film that has twists and turns and incredible scenes to watch.
When you talk about the prototype for a blockbuster type film like that, this is one of the ones that you talk about. For that reason, it's a visual spectacle. It's had an incredible almost 3-decade run now, as far as that series, is him playing Ethan Hunt over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Like, it's been incredible, and I'm excited to see that come to an end. We end May also with another film that you and I are both highly anticipating because of our love for Cobra Kai, and that's Karate Kid Legends. And it's kind of it's taking off where pretty much where Cobra Kai ends. This is like the last iteration that we could potentially see of the Daniel LaRusso character. So you're going to have Ralph Macchio back as Daniel LaRusso, but you're also getting Jackie Chan in this film as well. So you're kind of marrying the new-ish Karate Kid movie with the original Karate Kid, and just how this is going to come together and play off of it. It's going to be another big film that I know you and I are both looking forward to.
Yeah, that looks a lot of fun. The trailer came out, and it looked like it could be really good. Yeah, you do get, because you got the Jaden Smith, Jackie Chan Karate Kid reboot that did okay, but nothing else came of it. And then we got Cobra Kai that brought everybody back into the Karate Kid world, and now you're kind of merging and smashing those two together. So I'm really interested to see how they do that, because I think it's supposed to take a few years after Cobra Kai ends, because we've been curious this whole time of the timing of when Cobra Kai, the series, is ending and where Karate Kid Legends comes out. Like, how do we get from wherever that's ending to where, Karate Kid Legends picks up? And I think from what we've seen, it's about 3 years. So there is a little bit of a gap. So it's not necessarily immediately after Cobra Kai, but, sure, we have Cobra Kai ending in February in February, and then we have Karate Kid Legends coming out in May. So if you have a little bit of time to process how Cobra Kai ends before we get into that, but I am really looking forward to that. But we also have another potentially big film that follows it from the John Wick universe in Ballerina. So that was supposed to be out in 2024, but they decided to go back in and redo the action, redo a lot of the scenes. From what we're hearing, they almost redid the entire movie. They brought Chad back in, who did all the John Wick films. They brought him in to redo some scenes, but apparently he might have redone the entire movie. And the trailer we got looks really good. High action. We get Keanu Reeves showing back up, and a cameo as John Wick. It looks like it potentially could be good. There is that hesitation because it did get delayed a year for reshoots.
Yeah, and it's one that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on. Obviously, it's starring Ana de Armas, who's, just one of the most popular, actresses in the world right now. So it's got a lot of eyes on it. John Wick is incredible. I believe this takes place prior to either John Wick 3 or 4. Like, that's why you get the Keanu Reeves cameo in it. So it's kind of plopped in the middle of everything in the John Wick universe. So a ton of fun there. The next one you get is probably going to be the big Disney Pixar film of the year, which is Elio. That's going to be the one that you're going to start seeing a ton of. You're starting to see a little bit of trailer for it in front of some movies right now, but that's going to be a big pitch for Disney moving forward is getting this film, because from what I'm hearing, they're going to be investing a ton of money into marketing for this. They have a lot of high hopes for this, and this could be one of the higher grossing movies of the year if it really takes off.
And hopefully it's another big hit for Pixar, because it's about a boy who has a big imagination, and he's picturing and imagining about alien life and everything, and he ends up getting abducted and kind of claiming himself as the emperor of Earth, the representative of Earth, and you get to see him go on this journey. It looks like a lot of fun. But yeah, with June, we also have How to Train Your Dragon is getting a live action version. So we do have the director behind the animated films that my kids love and they're really looking forward to. We also have the Epic Universe Park that's coming of it. He decided that, well, they're going to do it anyway, so I might as well be the one who does this. The first trailer looks decent. It does look like more of a shot-to-shot remake, but he said that's not the case. So I'm really looking forward to see how they do that. But then one of our most anticipated films that we've talked about a lot is the return to 28 years later. So, we're coming back to the 28 universe of days and weeks. Now we've got years. The trailer for that came out. It looks fantastic. They're still hyping up that it was filmed on an iPhone, but if you've seen what's attached to the iPhone, it's like, all right, here's an iPhone. All right, here's a Mercedes that it's plugged up to. Like it's got a huge system in front of it. Like, yeah, here's the iPhone, but yeah, it's probably got 100-pound system of equipment that it's attached to do it. But either way, I'm really looking forward to see what they do with 28 years later.
Yeah, the trailer for it looks phenomenal. I'm so excited to see this. You got Aaron Taylor Johnson in it. You've got Cillian Murphy supposedly coming back in some shape or form that they're very specifically hiding in the trailer that some people seem to think it is, but they've kind of come out and said, no, it's not him in the trailer. But Cillian Murphy coming back to this, who's just a fantastic and brilliant actor. I'm so excited to dive into that. And we just keep things going in June. You have, the sequel to Megan, another popular horror film. Megan 2.0 is coming out. That's one a lot of people are going to have their eyes on. You also have a Formula One movie, F1, starring Brad Pitt, that looks really solid from the trailers. It looks
done by the director of Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, made by Top Gun Maverick. That looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then you move into July, which in my opinion is probably going to be the other really, really, really big box office month for the year. You get the Jurassic World Rebirth film that we've been talking about for months here. You got Scarlett Johansson. You get another dive into this world of dinosaurs that, it's another telling of this. It's going to do, we keep saying the word gangbusters, but it's going to make a ton of money when it comes out too.
So a week later, we have Superman. Like, this is the DCU fully kicking off in films. We've got the trailer for it. It looks fantastic to me. I really love what I've seen so far. We got to see Crypto. We got to see Nathan Fillion's bowl cut as a lantern and stuff that everybody's talking about. But that is a comic accurate look for it. But, we do get a small little lull after that, which we get the I Know What You Did Last Summer remake. We got another Smurfs movie that we haven't heard a lot about. Then we end the month with one of the most anticipated films of the year with the Fantastic Four First Steps. Like, if you're a comic book fan, a Marvel fan, with the Fox versions and pretty much all versions, they haven't got the Fantastic Four right. So there's a lot riding on this film, and that's going to end July in a big way.
Yeah, it's our most anticipated film of the year, personally, for us, just because we do love superhero movies. We love comic books as much as we do. This is Marvel's chance to get this right. We've never really had a proper, really well done Fantastic Four film. I don't care what you think about the Jessica Alba ones, the Chris Evans ones. Chris Evans is obviously so much better as Captain America, but I love the Johnny Storm cameo we got in Deadpool and Wolverine. But Fantastic Four, this is going to be huge for the future of Marvel. I really think they're putting all their eggs in the basket for this. I love that we really haven't gotten any trailers or any full looks at this film yet, but it's coming out at the end of July. It's going to be big, 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 big for Marvel, and in my opinion, it's going to be top 2 or 3 film grossing of the year.
It's probably going to be the biggest film of the year, but it's going to be close there with Superman and a few others that we have coming out. Like that, the box office should have a big resurgence next year.
Yeah, it's a big.
Or this year, it's 2025.
Yeah, we're here, man. It's going to be a big year. You move into August, you get another lull where it's like you get so much up front in May, June, and July. May, June, and July are just ridiculous. I think you and I are going to probably set up residence in the theater because we're going to.
I got a tent. We're just going to camp.
Yeah, we're just going to live there. That's where we do. Find a shower at some point, but you get kind of a lull. You get The Naked Gun reboot with Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson.
Still iffy on that one.
Yeah, I'm going in that very cautiously. You get the sequel to The Bad Guys, which is another one that I don't necessarily know if it needed a sequel, but it could potentially be a fun movie as well. If you love The Bad Guys, good news for you. It's getting a sequel and it's coming out in August. You also get another sequel with Bob Odenkirk and Nobody. That's a film that I actually really enjoyed a lot. I can't remember if you said you would see it.
I haven't seen the first one, but I want to. I've heard great things about it, but it was one of those that just came out in a time where I just didn't have time to watch it.
For sure. And it, like I said, a little bit of a lull in August, but you end August with the final Insidious movie. So fans of horror, it's supposed to be, it's called Thread and Insidious Tale.
Well, Thread is a prequel on Insidious, so it's not part of the main storyline.
But it's supposed to be the last one.
The Conjuring.
That's The Conjuring.
Next,
okay.
Yeah.
So you start talking about these.
Because you got them back to back. So you've got Thread and Insidious Tale, which is a prequel, and then you have The Conjuring Last Rites, which is the final movie The Conjuring. Yeah. But those, I'll be honest, I haven't really seen The Conjuring or the Insidious movies. I've heard good things about them, but they've kind of blend together for me because they have been kind of coming out around each other. But you've got them back to back. You've got a prequel within that series, and then you have the final one of that series. So we've got a lot of sequels and prequels that come out after a big summer box office, moving right into, you got Downton Abbey 3, so you've got a third of that, but of course we've got a few actors that have passed away from, that series, and then 2, which I kind of put these two together. So we have The Bride with Maggie Gyllenhaal, directed, it's got Christian Bale in it. It looks really good. We don't have a date for this one, but I want to talk to you about it at the same time because Guillermo del Toro is doing a Frankenstein movie as well. So we potentially have 2 big Frankenstein movies coming out this year. That one we're still waiting on a date for, but kind of when we talked about The Bride, I wanted to talk about that one because Maggie Gyllenhaal could do a really good job. I mean, it's got Christian Bale in it. Yeah. You've got a pretty big stacked cast, but potentially 2 big Frankenstein movies. So we've got Wolfman, we've got Frankenstein, we've got quite a more monster movies coming out in 2025.
And the Guillermo del Toro one has Oscar Isaac and Christoph Waltz in it, so it's not light on acting as well in that. And then in September, you kind of round out with the 11th installment of the Saw franchise. Saw 11 is coming out. That's another really popular horror movie that's probably going to do fairly well at the box office, I would assume. And then you get into October, which is music-wise the most anticipated musical-based movie of the year. It's the Michael Jackson biopic, Michael. That is going to be something that I am just chomping at the bit to check out. Obviously, Michael Jackson, the biggest pop star of all time, one of the most legendary figures of music. They get his nephew playing him in the movie, who, if you haven't seen the images yet, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it because he looks so much like his Uncle Michael that it's scary. You almost feel like it's Michael Jackson playing himself in this movie, which obviously can't happen, but this is one that everybody's talking about and everybody's looking forward to for sure.
Yeah, they're even hyping up that they think this might be the biggest movie of the year box office wise. Like they expect it to make billions. Yeah. That's kind of how they talked about this. They expect this movie to be $1 billion film.
And it could be just due to the overall popularity of Michael Jackson to begin with. And that's one to definitely look forward to. October's not light on films either. Like we have an animated film called Animal Friends. It's just sounds like an incredibly stacked voice actor cast. You've got Ryan Reynolds, Jason Momoa, you've got Vince Vaughn, you've got Aubrey Plaza, a lot of popular actors lending their voices to this animated movie. We don't know a ton about it yet, but with a movie like Animal Friends, you can kind of put together what you think the movie is going to be about.
Yeah, it sounds like it might be a raunchy comedy. Like you've got these, especially Ryan Reynolds and Aubrey Plaza. Where their humor can be, where Vince Vaughn's humor can be. So it sounds like a lot of fun. I do want to take a little quick moment here. We didn't do it. It happened right before the show happened, but Aubrey Plaza lost her husband. We give our condolences out to her. And that sad situation and stuff, because I really enjoy. I've almost finished a Park and Recreation rewatch. She was also great in Agatha and everything. She's been one of my favorites because she does that just sarcastic.
She's so funny.
Just so funny. The way she's able to present herself and her comedy and everything else. So she's another one. If she's involved, I'm going to go see it, even though I still haven't watched Megapolis. It has her in it. I still want to go back and watch that, but I wanted to give my condolences to her on that.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's just an absolutely tragic situation, but kind of moving through the rest of October, you've got the Tron follow-up, Tron Ares, which is another big deal. They've invested a ton into this Tron franchise. I'm still excited to go ride that ride at Disney at some point. Like that ride looks incredible. I've heard wonderful things about that. You also have a sequel to The Black Phone. You got The Black Phone 2 coming out just in time for Halloween, which is nice. An actual horror film coming out in October, right before Halloween. Who would have thought it?
There's so many horror films coming out in January and February this year. It's crazy.
Like it just makes sense. But we're ending October with one of the films that I'm looking forward to the most in 2025, and that's Mortal Kombat 2. Now, Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat gets a lot of, a lot of flake for being like this hokey take. It was a fun film. The second Mortal Kombat movie in that iteration was absolute hot garbage.
Regarded as one of the worst movies ever.
Absolutely horrible. But we got this incredibly brilliant reboot of it a couple years ago with Mortal Kombat 1, and we get the follow-up to it here. I'm very genuinely excited to see where they take this movie.
I'm really looking forward to see what they do with it. Like he said that they've listened to a lot of the fan feedback and everyone's feedback from the first movie, so they can do right by the second movie. So I have high hopes that that's going to be a lot of fun. And moving into November, we do kind of have a stack November as well. So, if you're a fan of Yorgos's films, which they've done well with Kinds of Kindness and Poor Things. He's teamed up with Emma Stone with every one of them. There's another team up with Emma Stone with Begonia. That'll be out at the beginning of November. But then we go into Predator Badlands. After that, we have Dan Trachtenberg has returned. He did Prey, which was very well received by a lot of people. So we also have a mystery Predator anthology or movie or something else that's coming out in the Predator realm that he may have been involved with as well. They haven't fully announced it, but it'll be out this year. But I'm really looking forward to Badlands because Prey was so good. They've kind of done a good kind of reset with Predator, even though it stayed true to the character, but it was set in the past and that they could do a lot of fun, good things. And Badlands seems to be one of those. And then right after that, or the same day, we have The Running Man. So it's not a remake. They're redoing the Stephen King novel. It's another adaptation, but of course it's legendary known as an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that he did with The Running Man, but you got Glenn Powell now who's taking over his role. You have Edgar Wright has directed it, so it could be really interesting. A lot of comparisons will be done between, is it closer to the book than Arnold's? How does it compare to what Arnold's was and stuff? And so that one's going to be a really interesting one to check out.
So to kind of continue with the rest of November, you get the follow-up in the Now You See Me franchise of Now You See Me 3, which is the next telling of this. I'm not exactly sure that was needed. I'm a little on the fence about that, especially with the way Now You See Me 2 left off, but we'll see. We'll give it a fair chance. But right around Thanksgiving time, you get Wicked for Good, which is the follow-up, obviously, to one of our favorite films of 2024, Wicked. You get the second half of it coming out on November 21st. I am so excited for that movie to see how they follow up. They're throwing in 2 brand new songs in this, which has got everybody both hyped and nervous to see if, they hold up with the rest of this incredible story that you're getting. This is going to be a darker tone film because you get the fallout with, Elphaba becoming the Wicked Witch and being portrayed as so. Now you get the darker half and dealing with the ramifications of things for people, and it's going to be a ton of fun. A lot of great songs coming up in that one, but for sure, definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. But yeah, coming up on Thanksgiving week, we have Zootopia 2, which ended up being a smash hit for Disney that I don't know if they were even expecting that. They've had some little spin-off shows that they've done on Disney Plus from it. So that's looking pretty big. And then Five Nights at Freddy 2 starts off our December. So, that did pretty decently well for Blumhouse, and they're bringing it back for a sequel. It was a fun little campy horror movie. I've played the games a little bit. I mean, it's a cult classic, and bravo to that guy. One guy who created this game series that is now a multiple film series, so many different games, all created by him. Like, just bravo to that guy to be able to get merchandise and movies and everything else off of something that he created.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about it was it did so well. The first movie set up a very obvious direction going forward with the sequel. If you don't know, there's multiple games that they could draw lore from, so if these continue to do well, it might turn into a franchise film-wise, which good for that guy, man. That guy's making an incredible amount of money off of this, and good for him, man. It just goes to show if you've got original ideas in the world of gaming, get something made because you never know, man. It could take off and become this huge, big deal. But you also have another one that's expected to make a ton of money. It's only one of the biggest franchises of all time. You get the third Avatar film finally. You get Avatar: Fire and Ash coming out on December 19th. one that everybody's looking forward to as well. Both movies have made over $1 billion plus at the box office. You can anticipate this third one being highly anticipated as well. Like, you got the next one coming. It's finally here. Thank God it's not 15 years in between them like it feels like between the first and the second one. But now we're getting the third one, so very excited for that.
Yeah, this is one where we got to see, can Fantastic Four or Superman stand up to, and Wicked, can it stand up to the might that the Avatar films have been in theaters? Like, but it's also a lot of people, and I still can't, because he's going with the elements. Like, all right, so Avatar: The Last Airbender, Avatar, oh, he's done water, he's done fire, and it's like, all right, there's too much correlation still with it. Like, people combining those together, because of course when Avatar came out as Avatar: The Last Airbender did their first movie, they couldn't call it Avatar because James Cameron had that locked down, and like, oh, that's the only similarity because it's just called Avatar. Nothing else is similar with it, but now he's named it Water and Fire, and then I think the third one has even got like a wind or earth, or the fourth one's got a wind or earth name to it. So, but yeah, these have been some of the most critically box office hits of the last year. I mean, it was until Endgame, it was, but then I think it did a re-release and took it back. And it's kind of bounced back and forth between Endgame of being the highest grossing films of all time. So, I had a few issues with how they ended Avatar 2, just because it was like plot armor with some characters and stuff that they did there. But Avatar looked incredible. Avatar 2 is still one of the most mind-blowing like visuals when you think about how much is CGI, and you get to see, even like going back to them on the water creatures and tying the rope, and you got the leather and you're seeing the water splash and move, and it's like, all right, none of that is real. Like, it looks so incredible. So that is, we've got a lot of big films that'll be vying for the top box office, but all of them are kind of going to be competing to see if it can dethrone Avatar, because they all have done so well.
Yeah, and we won't know until well into 2026 just how well that does to stack up in the overall box office compared to every other movie that's coming out this year. But it's a heck of a way to end the year. There's also a SpongeBob movie that's coming out.
Going against Avatar.
Yeah, going against Avatar. God bless you, SpongeBob. But like, that's another one. And then one that doesn't have a direct release date yet that I know you and I are both highly anticipating, and that's Happy Gilmore 2. Follow up to the classic Happy Gilmore film with Adam Sandler. It looks like it's going to have a release date at some point this year. Already got a trailer for it. Tons of cameos, tons of appearances. They look like they're really diving in and hopefully taking care of and keeping the legacy of how brilliant that first film was, and I'm excited for that film to come out.
Yeah, that's an absolutely stacked film list for the year. Like, there's crazy. And that's just kind of the biggest ones. Like, we've got even more than that, and you'll have some that'll pop up that we didn't even know was coming out this year, because new schedules change. We might lose some into 2026 or beyond. Like, we already lost the Batman for 2026. It's been moved into 2027. So you're going to have some that are going to be moving around. But yeah, film is big. TV is going to be big as well. But at least on that side, we're still waiting for a lot of release dates when it comes for the TV shows, and especially some of the biggest shows in 2025. But we'll start with the ones that we know of that's coming in 2026 that we have a solid date for. I'll let you kick off the first one, because I know it's one that's near and dear to you, that's actually going to be out and starting when this episode drops.
Yeah, so the day this episode drops, you get the very first episode of WWE's flagship show, Monday Night Raw, debuting on Netflix. This is a huge deal. They're pumping a lot of marketing, a lot of money into it. It's taking place in Los Angeles at the brand new arena that the LA Clippers opened up their season with this year. It's a huge deal in the world of wrestling. It's the biggest deal of its kind. They're making so much money off of this. It's very highly anticipated. It's going to have millions and millions and millions of viewers for this first episode. I'm excited. They absolutely stacked the card with every person you can think of that has been popular in wrestling over the last 5 or 6 years, including, the start of John Cena's last year as a full-time professional wrestler. He's come back and said 2025 he's doing wrestling the entire year. So you're getting like a final run for John Cena and just a legendary career for him. You also supposedly have The Rock on Monday Night Raw potentially. Like, it's going to be a big deal that they're moving all in for, and it's starting today in a big way to kick off 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how it handled because, Netflix didn't really have a whole lot of live stuff before 2024, and we got the Mike Tyson fight. Sure. And then we got, football. We got NFL football that happened, and they've really started getting a lot of live stuff. But yeah, WWE is going to be the big one to kick it off this year, and we hope that they're prepared and ready just for how many views, especially that first episode here on January 6th is going to be humongous, not only from viewership, but what they're doing on the show and everything, because it is kind of a fresh, new, big restart of it on Netflix here after being on a few different channels over the years. It's going to be pretty huge for them to start on Netflix here.
Yeah, it's a big get for them, and I think with the NFL, they got a lot of that streaming lagging issues out of the way. I know a lot of people had a much better viewing experience when the NFL games were on Christmas, because from what I heard, those games did extremely well on Netflix.
I dislike the teams that played that day, but the presentation was good.
Yeah,
it was smooth.
It was fine, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, just it's so hard. It's so hard to really pare down TV, because we do have some locked in for now dates for when TV shows are coming. But there's so many good shows to look forward to in 2025. A lot of shows coming to an end. A lot of big time shows coming to an end. You have one of the earliest ones that's coming to an end is obviously Cobra Kai on February 13th, season 6, part 3. We're excited to look at that and cover that. But you've got some big ones in January. You've got your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man coming out at the end of the month on Disney Plus on January 29th. Some big ones to kind of kick off the year, but there's a ton that just don't have release dates yet.
Yeah, and so a few more that we do. So we have Invincible and Reacher season 3, both coming in February, so those are going to be fun. We do have the debut of Suits LA on NBC with Stephen Amell. That's going to be debuting in February. But yeah, there's a couple big shows in January with The Pitt and American Primeval that look interesting. One of them is a more limited series with American Primeval. We've got Taylor Kish back in the 1800s, and then The Pitt is Noah Wiley's next ER, is basically, because there was actually a little controversy where they were trying to say that he couldn't do the show because he had done ER. You can do more than one medical show.
It's possible.
That was just a weird comment that came out by the networks. They were mad that he's doing another medical show.
There's 850 NCISs on CBS right now. Why is that such a big deal? I don't understand. But yeah,
there's a small one coming in March. I know you want to talk about.
It's finally going to be here in 2 months. I'm so excited. March 4th. Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. I've been talking about this show, and I'm sure a lot of people are sick of hearing me talk about it.
And we're moving on.
But it's, in my opinion, my most anticipated film or not thing of 2025 is Daredevil Born Again. I'm such a big fan of the Daredevil Netflix series that it's finally coming. We're getting it. It's 9 episodes for this season. It's going to be 2 seasons, 18 total episodes, but the first 9 episodes we're getting in March. I cannot wait for that show.
They're already talking that based on what they feel about what they've done so far, but if it does well, that it may have more than the 2 seasons that because originally it was one big season of 18 episodes, and they split it up into 2 9-episode seasons, and now they're like, you know what? We might just continue this on for a little bit, which if they continue on, right, because there was a lot of controversy with it that they filmed a quarter of the season and they decided that they didn't like where it was going and they rebooted it because they were trying to stay away from the Netflix series and they're using the same actors, but they were wanting to reboot it in the MCU differently. And they're like, you know what, let's go back and tie it into the Netflix series and keep it the tone and the darkness and everything else. And
thank God.
I cannot wait for it. Yeah, that's going to be a big one. It's a big year for Marvel. Between TV and film, there's 9 different projects going on, but Disney also has a lot with Star Wars. We have the next series that's ending is Andor season 2 is the final season of that, which is in the end being the most expensive projects that Star Wars and Lucasfilm has put out. Season 2 cost almost $300 million or something, and all together, both seasons were almost $700 million. So they put a lot of money. I love season 1, so I'm really looking forward to season 2. But season 2 is going to be really interesting because there's going to be time jumps. Every couple episodes, we're jumping years and jumping years again until we get up into the timeline for Rogue One. And that's going to be really interesting to see how they're able to tell the story in spurts, because you get this story. All right, now let's jump 3 years. Let's jump a few more years. All right, now we're in the Rogue One timeline. But they've poured a lot into this, so I'm really looking forward to see how that ends.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. They did so well with it. A little bummed that it's only getting 2 seasons, but I'm excited that it's getting 2 seasons because they're going to be able to fit everything they need to catch it up to Rogue One. Brilliantly told story. The depth of the characters are really well done. The acting, the tone of the show, like it's a really well done show, and I'm excited for them to kind of wrap that one up. You also get in June, you get Ironheart season 1, which we're finally getting that show. That show was filmed almost 3 years ago now, and it's finally seeing the light of day. But excited that one's getting it. I'm hoping we get that in like a kind of like in an Echo way where we get every episode dropping at once. I'm hoping they get that treatment with it, and it's not a weekly thing. I think this one's going to be more digestible as a binge watch show. Like, I'm excited that it's finally coming out, but it's one we're finally getting eyes on. But kind of continuing the Marvel thing, you're talking about everything they've got coming out. You got Eyes of Wakanda coming out in August. That's a fun one, like another animated trip into Wakanda. That's going to be a good one. You've got Marvel Zombies coming out in October. That's one that you and I are both highly looking forward to as well.
It doesn't have a set date yet, just October for now. But it's only, I think, 4 episodes. So
short.
I don't know if they're going to do the what if and release like one a day, or if they're going to drop them all at once.
Yeah, very possible they could do it either way, but looking forward to that. And then you've got, to kind of end 2025, you've got Wonder Man from them as well, which from what limited things we've seen from it, looks like it could potentially be a lot of fun as well. And it's, something that they're looking forward to releasing by the end of the year.
Definitely more obscure character in their arsenal, and you're also bringing over DC actors to play roles and stuff. But yeah, that's everything that we really know of big releases coming this year. But we do have a lot that do not have release dates, and they're probably going to be the biggest shows of the year, which we'll kick off with in the spring, The Last of Us Part 2. So that was a big hit for HBO and Max. Season 2, if you've played the game, there's going to be some potential controversy. There's going to be a lot of drama. There's going to be a lot of craziness that happens. That's sometime in the spring that we're going to see that.
Yeah, probably somewhere around April, I would say, seems to be the general consensus for that. Pedro Pascal's fantastic in that show. The young girl that is also starring, I'm blanking on her name, so I apologize for that, but does such an amazing job in that too. I'm excited for that follow-up. What limited trailers we've gotten from it so far look fantastic. Like, it's going to be a phenomenal follow-up. And yeah, if you've played the games, just prepared to have your heart broken more than once and potentially in this season. So I'm very much excited for that. Another one that's, in my opinion, probably going to be, if I were to guess, if you'd had me put money on any show that's going to be the biggest show of 2025, it's the finale of Stranger Things. So we get season 5 of Stranger Things. It's the final season, 8 episodes launching at some point in 2025. The consensus right now seems to be around September, October for that, because there's a debate back and forth on which one's coming out first, Squid Games or Stranger Things. So you can kind of pair those together, because Squid Games is going to be another highly anticipated one, with Squid Game season 2 just coming out and breaking every...
3 will be the final.
Yeah, and 3 is going to be the final season for that. But Squid Games 2 was the most viewed single week TV release that Netflix has ever had. It beat the record for Wednesday. We'll get to Wednesday in a minute too. Like, so many big things that they're following up on. Huge year for Netflix, obviously, but Stranger Things season 5, the finale for this incredibly popular show, 8 episodes, is coming at some point this year.
Yeah, we also have a final for The Handmaid's Tale. So it's been a pretty popular show for Hulu that's, been around for 6 seasons now. That's ending this year as well. We also have one that's going to be a little more controversial, is The Witcher season 4. That'll be out this year because Henry Cavill is gone. Liam Hemsworth has stepped in to be The Witcher. A lot of people are mixed on that, not only because of replacing Henry with Liam, but also the drama that's happened behind the scenes of why Henry left and stuff. Like, I'm still going to check it out, but I have lost a lot of interest in it because of that drama of kind of how it seems like they treated Henry, because he is a huge fan of the books, of The Witcher and everything else, and he was a stickler for it, and apparently they didn't like being a stickler. They want to change and do things like, all right, I'm out, and we'll bring Liam in, and it's up in the air because they did announce that season 5 is going to be the final season, so you're going to get 2 seasons of Liam, but we'll see how season 4 goes to see if they even still move forward with 5, because potentially you could have a huge plummet and drop off in viewership because of that drama, the changing of cast. There's, I think, a couple other cast members that are not returning as well, so season 4 is going to be a big change for The Witcher.
Yeah, huge. It's gonna be really important to see like the viewership on that and how many people are just turned off by the whole drama of that situation. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know if I'll be tossing a coin to my Witcher in that season or not, but like a lot of vitriol towards that show for replacing Henry Cavill the way that they did. Just did such a good job that we'll see if it holds up. But yeah, like we mentioned before, you have the final season of Squid Games coming out. Huge. You've got the follow-up to the very wildly popular Wednesday. Season 2 is dropping at some point this year. A huge show for Netflix. Like I mentioned, up until just recently with the release of Squid Game season 2, Wednesday was the most viewed single week's worth of viewership in Netflix's history. So the very popular Jenna Ortega season 2 follow-up that's going to see additions of big names like Steve Buscemi, like Lady Gaga, who's also going to be appearing in this show as well. So a lot of big shoes to fill in the follow-up for a very important show for Netflix on Wednesday.
Yeah, and Hulu has a couple potentially big new series that's coming out. So one is Chad Powers with Glenn Powell. It's a comedy series that'll be out this year. But you also have Alien coming to series. So you have Alien Earth from Noah Hawley, starring Timothy Olyphant. We've only got very just bits and pieces with the teasers. Like, it's not showing anything. But I'm really looking forward to see what they can do or what he's done with Alien in this series. Yeah. And those potentially could be just Glenn Powell's star power is so huge. That could be 2 huge series for Hulu this year.
Absolutely. Just a big year for Hulu as well. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, obviously, The Bear season 4, like we talked about. Huge follow-up for that show. One of the most popular shows on television right now.
It should be in the summer.
I believe it's coming out around the summer as well. Yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun to check out. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about we mentioned it briefly before. You have Game of Thrones, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms season 1. This is set in a different time period than House of the Dragon and the Game of Thrones, but it's in that same general universe of families and things that you know about in a different time. There's not a ton of information out about the show right now, but at some point this year it is going to come out as well, and one that I anticipate will do very well in the beginning for at least for Max, and probably their biggest show of the year.
Yeah, it should be pretty huge and should be a lot of action and stuff dealing with the Hedge Knight. But it is kind of set between House of Dragon and the original Game of Thrones. So it's about a century before the main story of Game of Thrones started. But that's going to be a big show. Another one that could be potentially big is Welcome to Derry, also on HBO. You have Bill Skarsgård returning as Pennywise. So you've got a horror prequel to the It series. That could potentially be big, and yeah, having Bill come back, he's executive producing and starring as Pennywise in it, should be pretty huge too. Like those, It Chapter 1 and 2 did fairly well for them, that they moving into doing a prequel series. So we'll see if that keeps the same charm and same horror and same aspects that the movies did.
Yeah, it's just so much to look forward to in 2025. I mean, that's a pretty comprehensive rundown of things that are major for TV and film, and it just goes to show how much we have to look forward to this year. There's so much content that's going to be almost impossible to keep up with. I know we're trying from a scheduling perspective to figure out, are we doing many, if any, episodic watch-alongs on the TV end, because there's so many high quality movies that are coming out, because there's so much in the TV realm that we don't know when it's coming out, that how we can fit it into our schedules. And we're going to be very busy developing content that I'm excited for, because there's so many fun things to watch and talk about, and it's what we're passionate about. It's what we love, and it's an incredible year that we have in front of us that I'm really excited for, and just dive into all this fun content. And we'll be completely honest, if we don't like it, we don't like it. If we love it, we'll rave about it. We have no problem doing that. But yeah, excited for everybody to kind of come on this journey with us, and just enjoy the ride, man. It's going to be a wild year for sure.
It's a big year ahead, so head to our comments on the YouTube videos, to our Discord, to our social medias. Let us know what your favorites of 2024 was from the film and TV side. Also, let us know what you're looking forward to in 2025. There is a huge mix between comedy, action, horror, sequels, prequels. There's a little bit of everything for everybody, and like I said, we weren't able to touch on everything that's coming out because you have your, especially TV side, you have your standard like broadcast and cable shows that are coming back for new seasons. There's a lot to watch and be entertained by in the next year.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a huge year. So much to look forward to. We're excited for everybody to kind of come on that journey with us, and we'll do our best to cover as much as we can. But man, there's so much, and there's probably going to be a couple things that we're going to have to cut that we're not going to be able to watch and cover. Like, it's going to be interesting, and that's not even touching on all the news that's going to probably happen and come out this year too that we're going to have to touch on. So a lot of meaty episodes we got coming up, a lot of double features that we're talking about, at least
a lot of double features.
Like, we're going to have like 2 movie reviews on, and we're going to have to find ways to fit TV in as well. Like, it's crazy. Like, but it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have.
So we're not going to be searching for content too much in 2025, and that has me very excited.
Oh, absolutely. So what's coming up in our first full week of 2025 here that we're going to review in theaters? We have Better Man, which is the Robbie Williams biopic where instead of using a human actor, there's a monkey.
Right.
There's actually been rave reviews about it. I'm looking forward to checking it out. And we also have the sequel to Den of Thieves and Den of Thieves 2 Pantera, which looks like it could be a fun, interesting action movie to start off the year.
Sure.
On demand, we have Flow on January 7th. So that's one I haven't seen yet, but I've heard a ton of stuff about it being potentially one of the best of 2024 as well. So I'm really looking forward to be able to finally check that out. And Getaway on January 10th. So this is a horror comedy that we were hoping that we would have got in our area, but it never showed up for us to watch. So we'll have to check it out on demand here on January 10th when it releases.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to checking that one out too. A little bummed that it never came over here, but excited to get my eyes on that one and check it out for sure.
And as already talked about in the 2025 preview, WWE Monday Night Raw is making its Netflix debut on January 6th. That's going to be huge for them, huge for wrestling fans. I'm waiting to see, probably haven't got the numbers jumping yet, so I'm looking forward to see what are Netflix's Sunday numbers compared to their Monday numbers when that debuts.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal for them. A lot of eyeballs going to be on it. Huge international coverage. One of the fun things about this now, if you're a fan of WWE, is when they're in the States and kind of in this part of the world, it's going to stay at the same time. It's going to be on around 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. It's going to be live everywhere. So where they are in the world is when it's going to air. So when they go over to, say, France, or they go over to the UK and it's 5 hours ahead of us here, that show could be at 3 in the afternoon. That's when it's going to air on Netflix. It's going to air live no matter where in the world they are and what time they put it on. So if it's 8 in the evening in the UK and it's 3 in the afternoon here, guess what? Netflix is going to air it live on Netflix for everyone at 3 in the afternoon or noon if you're on the West Coast. Like, it's going to be fun to see that, how that kind of changes the game as far as live television goes, for sure.
And Monday Night Raw is coming to Cincinnati area, so you might see Josh there. Maybe I'll tag along, and you'll see me there for it too. And maybe you'll see us on Monday Night Raw on Netflix.
Put me on Netflix.
But next one I want to talk about was kind of a guilty pleasure. It wasn't a great show, but it was an interesting twist of putting Deal or No Deal and Survivor together in Deal or No Deal Island. Season 2 debuts on NBC on January 7th. I had fun with the first season. It had some rough parts to it and some Big Brother type of drama if you're into that kind of stuff, because it's Big Brother, Survivor, Real Housewives, almost kind of just drama between the characters. But I had fun with it. But I'm looking forward to see what season 2. You don't have Boston Rob, who kind of helped kick off the series, but he does have an after show. So if you are a big fan of Deal or No Deal Island, he will have his own after show that will debut right after the episode, so you'll be able to see him still involved with this series. Of course, he was huge from Survivor. Mm-hmm. They kind of used him in Deal or No Deal Island to boost its appeal to people, and now it's seemingly we have an all new unknown cast in season 2.
No, that's definitely not the case, because you have Parvati, who is...
Is Parvati in it? I haven't seen anything on it yet. I saw one trailer and I didn't really recognize anybody.
So now in the full trailer, you get some view of the cast. So you have Parvati Shallow, who is a very popular contestant on Survivor. She's going to be on it, as well as a Big Brother legend, if you're a fan of the show. He goes by the name of Dr. Will. Dr. Will is going to be on that show as well. So hosted by Joe Manganiello, who does a fun job just kind of interacting with people. And it's definitely a guilty pleasure type show, but definitely season 2 is going to be interesting when that kicks off.
Yeah, because I did not recognize either of those. Because I watched a couple seasons of Big Brother, but I was never big into it, and I completely forgot about Parvati. So I'm like, okay, didn't recognize her. We also have, like we mentioned, the 2025 preview, 2 of the kind of more anticipated series. So we have The Pit, season 1 on Max, American Prime Evil, and we also have the Critics' Choice Award on E. All that coming on January 12th.
Yeah, a lot of stuff kicking off. So 2 of our most anticipated shows of 2025 kicking off right here at the beginning of the year. Excited to check those out and hopefully talk about 1 or 2 of them if the time comes.
Yep.
So that's going to do it for this week's episode. If you can't tell by now, 2025 is going to be a huge year. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up to bring to you on the podcast. We're excited to check out so many movies and TV shows. So thankful you continue to take this journey with us. Coming up next week, we have our first film of 2025, which is Den of Thieves 2 Pantera. We're also going to be reviewing the DC Max animated show Creature Commandos. It's the first James Gunn produced show for DC, and we're going to be reviewing that next week. Until then, I'm Josh, he's Brad, and we'll see you then.